But alright, time to continue this. I have no idea if this is going to be another long chapter or not. Just in case if I've been going through a chapter that's like 2 hours long, I'm probably just going to leave it at that, because I don't want to end up with another 3+ hour chapter. Because that would just be kinda annoying. So, yeah. Let's see how it turns out, shall we? I should be around halfway in at this point. He was still in a deep sleep. I could probably take out the charging cable here. It all seemed to blaze in a mad, fiery red. Unbearably idle thoughts. In essence, obstinacy. Melancholy sight and gloomy, bittersweet talk. Fickle wickedness born of human interaction. Namely, the voice of forsaken coexistence. This, however, was the scenery of a world far removed from that. If the writer was praying this was paradise, then there were likely also those lamenting it as the underworld. In a decade, or perhaps longer, this would all change, but for now the autumn leaves remained yet untrampled by human souls. It was scenery he knew well. I do hope that the audio is fine. Life in the mountains was humble and modest. There were no conspicuous buildings among the wilderness he called home. They gathered and stockpiled only what they needed to survive without pillaging the land. Serpentine trails could be seen moving through the fields, and the stone steps leading up to the summit were obscured by the forest only visible once upon them. The mountain inhabitants probably intended it that way. There was no sign of mankind's exploitation among the mountain landscape. He still remembered that this was the season he liked the most. Or rather, it suited him the most. There was much to be done to prepare for winter, but whenever he had a free moment, he would make his way toward the mountaintop. Gazing idly at the setting sun while breathing the deep crisp autumn air was probably the second favorite of his daily joys. It relaxed him, the cold but comforting winter dusk, and the way the sunset dyed the peaks of vibrant crimson. Not 2 months had passed since coming down from the mountains, and it already pained him that the memories had begun to fade. Someone once told him that memories fade every day, so the best one you do is making. So the best you want to do? Is that a typo? So the best you can do is make as many new ones possible. Recollections grew hazy. A new place to live meant the beginning of a new life. He wasn't sure he was reluctant to let go of the scene he had cherished for so long, or if he had merely been spoiled by it. Despite his new home in a city surrounded by tall buildings, he felt guilty for wanting those memories to remain clear in his mind. Don't worry about it. I do worry about it. Either way, he had to make the best of a fresh start. What kind of man thinks more about where he came from than where he's going, he contemplated. Well, I do that a lot. Absolutely not a sign of you losing your grasp of reality. Oh, this is a dream. He tried to stop himself from indulging in uncharacteristic sentimentality. It wouldn't be a dream if it was easy to understand. The moment he realized he was dreaming, angular shadows began to rise from the autumn colors. They were concrete buildings, previously unknown and yet familiar to him at the same time. This was how his current life was washing away his memories. Struggle as he might, there was no stopping the degradation of human memory or impressions. It was merely a fact of life. By nature, humans lived in the present over the past. I don't know about that myself sometimes, but hey. Eventually, even the most cherished memories would be swallowed up by the buildings. It was neither cruel nor heartless. If they were sure to disappear, then for now he would content himself with dreaming about the memories he could clearly recall. Whether in the mountains or in the city, the days flew by. Yesterday's scenery was not the same as today's. And such. She had given him no time to grieve. Distant nostalgia was beautiful, but that made it fleeting.
土産入道じゃないんだぞ、青崎。
What does it sound lower again? You're no Miyagi Nyudo, Awazaki. I can't talk my way past you. Nyudo, I see. A faint dizziness made him close his eyes. He went outside, the mountainous landscape vanished, but in place a familiar voice could be heard. Like, I guess I have to explain for the people who don't know what a Nudo is. It's a yokai that's basically like a big tall cloud person. And you can only see their legs. But if you look up at them, they will cut your head off. So, yeah. just slight translator note, I guess. It was a booming voice that seemed to shake not only the mountainside you stood upon, but the entire mountain as well. Yeah, kind of a division what they're going for here. And of course, Oko Ozaki reappeared, towering in the distance. He must have been tired, he thought, diagnosing himself with trying to make out what she was saying. Fearing the vertigo would return if he reopened his eyes, he decided to keep them closed. It sounded like she was arguing with someone, though the tone was all he could make out. It wasn't violent, but certainly aggressive. Maybe she was picking a fight with another mountain across the way. He wouldn't put it past her. After all, she was a troublemaker who blew up the moon. Yeah, we're like halfway in and the moon already got fucked in this. That's impressive. He couldn't quite cross the conversation. Though somehow vaguely had the sense that his human rights were largely being ignored. It was deeply unsettling, even for a dream. After several minutes, it seemed that the high-impact argument had ended in Oko's victory. Then suddenly the boisterous voice faded. Praying everything would be back to normal, he opened his eyes. It must be like the audio is low again. At least on my end. He took a deep, slow breath. The scene was a far cry from the nostalgic dreamscape he had just left, albeit not unpleasant either. Without a doubt it was the amusement park. To him it was his freshest memory. He recalled the House of Mirrors that Oko Ozaki destroyed. This park was a flawless replica of reality, but he was the only one there. Without having to worry about anyone chasing him, he sat down on the wreckage of Kitsy rides and looked up at the moon that should have been shot down. The winter moon shone white like a jewel. It was laid over the figure of the girl who tried to kill him. And if a mage was a witch, then she definitely fit the bill. I don't mind being killed. Such an absurd thing to say, but it spilled out of him so naturally. Well, maybe. It had nothing to do with the witches or magecraft. There was an echo in the gaps of his heart. If she had not spoken those words, then he would not have responded as he did. In that moment, what had Oko Ozaki said to him? As he tried to remember, his deep slumber drew to an end. And with it, his chance to find the answers he so wished he could find. Then, Soju woke up in an unfamiliar room, gasping. Not because the plush mattress he was on was softer than his apartment cheap futon, or because everything from the carpet to the wallpaper looked expensive. Oh, it's the piano music that's gonna get claimed again. Bewildered, he tried to catch his breath. She was the cause of his surprise. The moment Soju's eyes snapped open, she was there, the girl dressed in black, sitting at his bedside. The silence was deafening. Still supine on the bed, Soju gazed at her. His impulse was to sit up, but he refrained, thinking it might be rude to be it staring at a person sitting next to him. We're getting some grammar mistakes here. She was just sitting there on a chair, dressed in black, modest clothes. Still, she projected an air that was anything but plain. Her monochrome outfit evoked indescribable elegance. Like a costume handmade just for her from the finest fabrics. It was enough to inspire poetic sentiments even in Sojuro. The girl continued to sit, completely motionless. Without realizing it, Sojuro stopped breathing. Genuine astonishment had him captivated. Such beauty. It was the first time he had ever thought to use such simple, plain expression to describe another human being. She was a daffodil in perfect blue, or the ideal female form only seen in dreams. This quality was something to be cherished and admired in her. It was different from Oko Ozaki's blindingly radiant vitality. After all, the flame that burns twice as bright as burns half as long. And there was no way this girl would be allowed such a happy ending. Her life was a solitary fable of someone who left the world in exactly the same way they entered it. Whether humanity stolen that bird, hers was an existence all of this world. The beautiful something was and what tragic its fate. Growing up in the mountains is not something Sojiro has thought, but something he learned from experience.
眠ってるみたいだ。
Yeah, it sounds rather low again, doesn't it? Looks like she's sleeping. Sojiro turned his head as he thought he was being lured in. He knew it was rude to stare, but he couldn't fight his instincts. Then...
Eh?
Huh? This time his heart actually skipped a beat. She was not asleep at all. Expressionless, she was merely watching over him while he recovered. Sojiro froze, unable to turn his head away or think something clever to say. It was like staring into her eyes turned him to stone. Perhaps because of her delicate features, she looked somewhat younger than him. On the other hand, her tranquil expression made him feel like she was older. Jet black hair just to her shoulders. Her large eyes were set like onyx stones, matching her hair. Devoid of emotion, her gaze stayed fixed on Sojiro. Even after their eyes met, he did not turn away. He wanted to speak, but he could not find the words. It was not unlike a frog being stared down by a snake. Nevertheless, he could not bring himself to say something. Additionally... No matter how carefree Sojiro might have been, he was painfully aware that this girl was as powerful as Aoko. Less talkative to be sure, but still powerful. Objectively, the scene was not unlike that of someone nursing a bedridden stranger. He had no idea what she may have been thinking about, but it seemed to him this harsh silence might last forever. All he could say for sure was that the quiet did not appear to bother her in the slightest. It was like some bizarre form of punishment.
これが青崎の仕込みなら手が込みすぎる。
It does seem to spike into the yellow when things are being said, so that should be fine. If this is some kind of test from Ozaki, this sure is elaborate. He thought, keeping his eyes on the girl. It felt like the moment he turned his head or blinked, she might stab him in the chest with a hidden blade. And not because his imagination was running away with him. In the stifling silence, it was only natural that Sojiro would think back on what happened in the amusement park, and it made him uneasy. But stronger than anxiety was his fascination with the girl. Her slender frame and milky white skin, the chill of her guarded stare, the warmth of her lingering femininity. It was the mixture of those two later qualities that was almost magical. He stared at her for so long he began to get the feeling that he had met somewhere before. Sometime before the conflict at Ketsi Land. He could not quite put his finger on it, but he was quite sure he had seen her previously.
その今更だけど
Yeah, outside of the school, you nimit. I don't know if this is the right time to ask this, but... His foe shattered the frozen silence in the bedroom. He almost felt sorry for making noise as he spoke out to her. But he could not very well sit and just stare at each other forever. Though he might have been the only one thinking that they were staring, and perhaps she thought they were glaring at each other.
ここはどこで君は誰だかわかるかな
Where am I, and who might you be? She narrowed her eyes slightly. They were apparently not out of offense. There was no response. Just as he was thinking it would have been better to keep quiet, she quietly raised her hand.
これあなたのでしょ
This is yours, is it not? Her voice was cold but melodic. A white piece of cloth was wrapped in the fingers. There was no need to tell him what it was. He was conscious enough to recognize his own possessions. Sojiro sat speechless as he tossed it to him. Picking it up, he wrapped it around his neck.
青子はそれを知っているの
Does Aoko know about that? He looked away in response to a blunt question. Distracted by something unrelated. She called Aoko Ozaki by a given name, which led him to believe that the mountain Aoko had argued with in his dream was actually the girl beside him.
さあどうだろ
I'm not sure. As sincerely as he could, he answered without presumption. There are things that should be known and things that need not be. There are also things that should be told and things that must not be. Soji was not exactly sure what that she was referring to,
うで
however,
もその方がいいとは思うよ
but maybe it's better that way. He smiled slightly at the question. Perhaps impressed by his response, the overwhelming pressure in the room dissipated noticeably. Or perhaps she's been more nervous than he was the entire time. Why did I say perhaps? It says maybe. Projecting the image that his room is her domain tattooed strongly. The tension faded. Sojiro tried to sit up and prop his arms beneath him. Now that they were talking, it seemed awkward to stay lying down. However, his body felt strange as he tried to move, and it surprised him how difficult it was to sit up. It took everything he had just to raise his upper body to a sitting position.
あれ、洋服のままだ。
I'm still in my clothes. As he drew the covers back, he tilted his head quizzically.
申し訳ない。こんないい布団なのに、これじゃ不釣り合いだ。というよりもったいない。
I'm sorry, this is such a nice bed too. I shouldn't be in my clothes under the sheets. What a waste of a good bed. She stared at him, not expecting him to complain about not wearing pajamas while sleeping. Somehow it appeared that he had done something to surprise her.
なんでだ。何もしてないぞ、俺。
But why? I didn't do anything. Pouting a bit at the unwanted curiosity, he turned to face her. Although he was still mostly lying down, it was at least more dignified position.
それで、さっきの続きだけど。
So, any chance you'll tell me? Indeed, he needed to find out where he was and who she was before anything else. Actually, the more he thought about what happened at the amusement park, the more he got a sinking feeling in his stomach. Perhaps finally getting through to her, she calmly moved her arm from behind her back when... Once again, they silently locked eyes. Thump thump, there was a startling sound of rapidly approaching footsteps. They both had a pretty good idea of who it was. There goes the silence.
Alice, 約束!
Alice, you promised! Just as expected. Aoko Ozaki burst through the door with a thunderous roar. She entered wearing a school uniform, her long hair flowing behind her. Her breathing was heavy and her forehead was wrinkled by her skull, granting her a demonic appearance.
Alice!
Alice! This girl named Alice scowled slightly in response. She might have even let a sigh of disappointment slip out.
早かったわね、青子。
Aoko! Home early, I see. Her calm voice was the polar opposite of Aoko's. Needless to say, her voice dripped with the present coldness.
そりゃあんたの性格は知り抜いてるからね。
It's because I know you all too well.
こういう時の短絡思考はこの2年で経験済みよ。お行儀がいいようで面倒になったらあっさり投げ捨てるのがあんたでしょ。
Over the past 2 years, I've come to expect how quickly you jump to conclusions. You might act mild-mannered, but as soon as things don't go your way, the veil drops.
いやね、人聞きの悪い。
Oh dear, you make it sound so scandalous. Effortlessly, she brushed aside Aoko's jab. In doing so, Soju had a distinct impression that she no longer even realized he was in the room.
はっ、それで今日まで何度煮え湯を飲まされたことか。
That the record show that I've lost count of how many times you've come back on your word.
青子に譲ると言ったけど、よく考えると面倒だから私の方で処理しておいたわ。なんて言い訳、もう聞き飽きたっつーの。
I'm tired of hearing the same old story after the fact. I know I said I would leave it to you, but after careful consideration I decided to take care of it myself.
短期なのはそっちの自由だけど、それなら後の始末は相方に任せるのが最低限の筋ってもんじゃないの？
I may have come to terms with your short fuse, but the least you can do in return is to trust your partner to set things right, no?
そうね。そうでなければ共闘している意味がないわ。
You're right, we wouldn't be partners
まあ
otherwise.
今後の方針を勝手に決めた人のセリフじゃないとは思うけど。
Though you hardly want to talk, after unilaterally deciding our plan from here on out.
それもきっちり型をつけたでしょ？
We've been over this already.
いい？勝ったのは私たちよ。逃げ切れば見逃してあげるって言ったのは誰？言動には責任を持ちなさい、アリス。
We won, okay? Besides, who was the one who said that we should let him live if he escaped? Yet again you've gone back on your word,
そ
Alice.
れとも何？もしかして一番気に食わないのはそのあたりの理由なわけ？
Oh, don't tell me. Next you'll be saying that's the reason why you can't let sleeping dogs lie. Alice frowned slightly and fell silent. Her housemate seemed to have struck a nerve that Alice herself did not know was there.
とにかく
Anyway,
こいつの扱いはちゃんと目が覚めて本人の意思でどうするか決めるまで保留ってことで合意したでしょ？
we agreed to decide what to do with him when he wakes up, after hearing him out, right?
人の留守中に出し抜くのはやめてよね。
So stop trying to flip the script every time my back is turned.
それ、青子、学校はどうしたの？ まだ正午になったばかりなの。
Speaking of which, aren't you supposed to be at school? It's noon already. No, you didn't really miss much. You missed him dreaming that she was in Yoda. That's about it.
アリスのとこが今日で終わりって思い出して、家庭の事情ってことで早退したのよ。期末試験前だってのに、ほんと何やってんのか。
I remembered you only had your school ends of term ceremony today, so I told him to leave early for personal reasons. This is so warped. I have finals coming up, for goodness sake. Yoko grumbled more to herself than anyone else in the room. Then she locked eyes with Alice. Or more accurately, they glared daggers at each other. Drew wanted to become tense once again and felt like a fight could break out at any moment, but no way to escape, so Joe had no choice but to sit still and watch. But then, the electric silence that seemed like it would last forever slowly broke out about a minute later. Apparently this sort of clash was an everyday occurrence.
私は今に行っているから。
I'll be in the drawing
彼
room.
に事情を説明してあげて。
Explain the circumstances to him. Alice stood up from the chair and made for the door. Watching her go, Sojo cocked his hat. In her hand was what could only be described as
果物ナイフ
a fruit knife. Oh no, he was going to get stabbed. He had no other words to describe the tool she was clutching.
アリス、あえて聞くけど、その手に持ってるの何？
Alice, I hate to ask, but what's that in your hand? Of course, Alice as she walked past.
探検ね。どう見ても。
A dagger, what else? Alice answered expressionlessly before briskly walking out of the room. Yep. Sojo thought it best to not think too deeply about the scene he had just witnessed. Fucker was about to get shanked. At any rate, the girl in black had withdrawn, and along with her the feeling of tension. Leaving a bedridden Sojo alone with Anoka still dressed for school. From Sojo's perspective, this was the perfect chance to get answers to his ever-growing list of questions.
わけのわからないことだらけだ、青崎。
My head's spinning, Aozaki.
でしょうね。順序立てて説明してあげるから、ちょっと黙ってて。
I bet. I'll explain everything in order, so just shut up and listen.
顔の麻痺も取れてるし、呼吸も再開っと。これならもう安心かな。
I see the facial paralysis is gone, and your breathing has stabilized. It looks like you drew the worst of it. She nodded, satisfied, as she took a seat.
どう？調子は。
How do you feel?
なん
A
か
bit... Oh.
だるい。
A bit... sluggish. He answered meekly, dropping his shoulders. He opened and closed his left hand a few times, but moving his fingers felt slow and awkward. It was clear he was still in bad shape. Meanwhile, Oko was blinking her eyes in wonder. Or was it admiration? Between Alice and Oko, Soju did not know which of the girls was harder to read.
体が重いのは当然よ。
Well, you're bound to feel a bit sluggish.
丸2日経ってるし、寝てるだけでも体は弱ってるだろうし。
Lying in bed for 2 days straight would make anyone feel weak.
もう話せるくらい回復してるとは思わなかった。あんたって見かけより頑丈にできてるのね。
But I never thought you would be well enough to speak. You're a lot tougher than you look.
2日って
2 days?
あれからそれだけ経ってるの。学校には欠席届出しといたから、その点は安心して。
Oh, it's gonna be his side jobs that he's gonna be worried about. It's been 2 days. Don't worry about the school. I submitted a notice of absence.
ガンドの呪いもダンプティの呪いも、私とアリストで解除しといたから。
In the meantime, Alice and I dispelled the Gander curse in a Dumpty poem. Dumpty. Soju nodded at the word curse as if recalling it suddenly. It was all coming back to him now.
どうかした？そんな遠い目しちゃって。
What's wrong? You look troubled by something.
ああ、忘れてた。それで2日も寝込んでたのか。怖いもんだな、呪われるってことは。
I just forgot everything that really happened is all. Was I really asleep for 2 days? Getting cursed is pretty scary.
ほんと緊張感ないわね、あんた。ローのように眠ってたのが嘘みたいよ。下手すると一生あのまま石膏もどきだったかも
Actual
しれない。
cucumber then. Your school is a cucumber, aren't you? It is if 2 days in death's doors doesn't change you a bit. Do you realize you are one step away from becoming a vegetable for the rest of your life?
ちょっと待った。今すごいこと言わなかったか？
Wait just a second. Was it really that bad?
言ったけど、 引かぬが花よ。
It was, and I guess you are proof that ignorance is bliss after all. Ignorance is bliss, Jet.
経
Don't
緯は
forget
どう
that.
あれ、後でアリスにお礼を言っときなさい。私じゃ解除できなかったんだから。
Anyway, what's done is done. Be sure to thank Alice later. Couldn't have lifted the curses without her help.
ひどい花もあったもんだ。
Sometimes bliss is overrated.
あ、けどアリスっていうのはさっきの子か？遊園地で俺たちを殺そうとした？
Oh, and yeah, you said the name Alice. Was that girl Alice? Was she the one who, you know, tried to kill us at the amusement park? Marco replied that it
彼女
was.
ずっとそこに座ってたけど、ここは彼女の部屋なのか？
She was sitting by my side for ages. Is this her room or something? Soju scanned the room again. And he was not accustomed to sleeping in anything other than a futon, and the room looked especially foreign to him.
うん、ここはただの客室。長いこと使ってなかったから埃だらけでしょ。
No, this is just a guest room. It hasn't been used in forever, and it's the dust over everything.
それよりアリスと何か話したの？あなた。
More importantly, what did you and Alice talk about?
い
Well,
や、あれを会話というのはちょっと。
we didn't really talk so much as... He brought his hand to his mouth and recalled a few words that they exchanged. As Soju said, calling it a conversation would be a gross overstatement. And yet, thinking back on it, it seems like they talked for hours, which brought an uncomfortable smile to his face.
とはいえ、緊張は解けたと思うよ。
But it's fine, I'm no longer
青
worried.
崎がやってくるのがもう少し遅かったらよかったのに。
Although it would have been nice if you had come a little later, Awazaki. Ah yes, when you got stabbed by the dagger, huh? Naoko narrowed her eyes at his innocent slip of the tongue. She knew Soju did not mean to treat her like a nuisance, but nevertheless she found it hard to take the full brunt of the words he said to her face. Even worse, she said she was getting used to his manner of speaking.
でも、だからなのかもね。相変わらず首の皮一枚の人生を送ってるわ、あなたって。
So that's why she... You really have a knack for surviving on the skin of your teeth, don't you? He tilted his head, clearly confused.
だから、あんたはよっぽどアリス好みの対応をしたのよ。まだ生きてるってそういうこと。
I'm saying you did something to please Alice. That's the reason you're still alive. Pleasing Alice, huh? Uh-oh. No matter how hard he tried, he could not grasp what she was getting at. He decided to change the subject for something else.
ところで、ここはどこなんだ？あの子に聞いても教えてくれなかったけど、青崎なら教えてくれるだろう。
By the way, where are we exactly? I asked the other girl, but she wouldn't tell me. You can tell me, right, Awazaki?
ここは三崎町の幽霊屋敷よ。正確には久遠寺邸と言えばいいかしらね。
You're inside Misaki's infamous haunted house, but you can call it the Koonji Estate.
さっきの子、久遠寺アリスの持ち家で私が住んでるところでもある。あの後あなたをここまで持ってきたんだけど、覚えてないでしょ？
And that girl, that's Alice Koonji. This is her mansion, which happens to be the place I currently call home. After the other night, I, brought you here. You don't remember, do you? Something about the way she said that made him feel
久
uncomfortable.
遠寺っていう名前は聞き覚えがあるような。そうだ、よく商店街でおじさんたちが話してた。なんでも偉いお金持ちだとかなんとか。
Mm-hmm. Suspicious user. Ban evasion is being monitored. Ah yes. Ah yes. Koonji, I've heard that name before. Hey, you know, some little guys in the shopping district are talking about it. The Koonjis are a rich and famous family, or something.
それ、アリスの前ではご法度よ。穏便にここで暮らしたいならね。
Don't you dare say that in front of Alice. If you want to live here in peace, that is. Confused yet again, Soju tilted his head for what seemed like the 100th time today. And once again he had heard something to make him feel uneasy.
青崎、君今なんて言った？
Awazaki, did you just say...
しずきくん、
Sorry, shouted.
私ね、あからさまな嘘を言
Every
う人
single
と
time, huh?
同じことを何度も言わせる人と察しの悪い人には容赦しないから。
Sizuki, I have very little patience for liars, idiots, and people that make me repeat myself.
そのあたり覚えておいてね。ここで平穏に暮らしたいなら。
Do your best to remember that if you want to enjoy your stay here, she said with a beaming face. With her best smile, Aoko made a threatening proclamation. Needless to say, it caught Soju completely off guard.
気のせいならいいんだけど、君の言葉には俺がここに住むような響きが感じられる。
I must have misheard you because I could have sworn you said something about me living here. He showed her an honest stare of disapproval. It was the best resistance he could muster. But it was not in the slightest effective against Aoko's overpowering ruthless glare.
あなた、自分の立場は分かってる？
Also, I need to check that person's... Oh well, I can't see that anymore. I swear to God, it said by best reviewers or something. Like, what do you mean reviewers? The quicker we understand your position you're in, the better it will be for you. You mean... He considered her words carefully. He wanted to openly express his feelings on the matter, but instead he swallowed his words and shook his head. Despite his typical inability to read people's emotions, he at least seemed to understand some of the gravity of the situation. It appeared that he had finally realized that it was his carefree mood that typically got on Oko's nerves.
ああ、そうだった。あんたに回りくどいこと言っても無駄だったのよね。
Ah, my mistake. I forgot there was no use beating around the bush with
いい
you.
わ。考える時間ぐらいあげたかったけど、時間もないし、はっきりと言ってあげる。
Fine, I wanted to give you time to think, but we're way past that, so I'll just come out and say it.
いい？しずきくん。
Listen to me, Sizuki.
この度、あなたは私たちの監視下に置かれることになりました。しばらくはここで一緒に暮らしてもらいます。
As of now, you're being placed under our supervision. You will be living here together with us for the time being.
もちろん、生殺与奪の権利はこちらにあるという条件で。
Naturally, I reserve the right to decide whether you'll live or die.
No.
What? The blatant tyranny in her voice caused him to sputter. He wished that she would stop smiling in an attempt to make it seem like an endless outrageous.
一緒に住むって青崎とか？
Live together with you? It was not the faint expectation of living under the same room with Aoka that had him flustered. Rather, he was genuinely concerned about his own safety. Regardless of how good-natured he was, it seemed he had finally come to grips with the fact that he just escaped death.
とんでもない。冬眠前の熊と一緒に暖を取るようなもんだ。
You can't be serious! It's like seeking warmth next to a bear before it goes into hibernation. Aoka agreed, as splendid as a comparison it was.
たまには的確な比喩をするじゃない。
Once in a while you have some pretty accurate metaphors, you
あ
know.
なたの言う通り、下手なことをしたり決まりを破ったりしたら、今度こそ息の根止めるからね。
But I'm glad you figured it out. Make a wrong move or break a rule and I'll end you. For real this time.
それと、ここに住んでるのは私とアリスの2人だけよ。
Plus, it's just me and Alice you'll be living
あの
with.
子、私なんかより数倍常識ないから、気をつけないと死んじゃうぞ。
She has way less common sense than I do too, so if you're not careful, you'll want to be led by her hands too. Aoko is 100% serious. It was his sincerity that made her all the more believable.
いや。
No. Obviously, there was no way the victim Soju could accept these
待っ
terms.
てくれ。俺にはちっとも青崎がわからない。
Wait a minute, you're not making any sense,
監
Awazaki.
視するって言うけど、なんでそんな話になってるんだ？考えられる範囲、悪いこととかしてないし、そもそも俺を見張っても得なことなんて一個もないし、青崎はいろいろ間違ってる。
You say I'm under your supervision, but why is that necessary? If you think about it, I haven't even done anything wrong, so there was really no point in keeping an eye on me. This has to be a misunderstanding.
いや、それとも魔術師っていうのはみんな青崎みたいなのか。
Is it? Are all mages like you, Awazaki? Arrogant and selfish, were the words that the harmless boy's gaze seemed to imply. Aoko felt a headache coming on. Due to his innate easygoing persona, Soju had not thought to question that Aoko being a mage was out of the ordinary.
だからあんたがそういう風に誰はばかることなく私たちのことを言いふらさないかを見張ってんじゃないこの常識なし。
That's the problem. We need to keep an eye on you so you don't go around saying things like that and blow our cover, you dunce. Aoko flew out of her chair. She had been doing her best to keep her cool, but it seemed her well of patience had finally run dry. Witnessing Aoko snap, Soju clipped his hands together.
そうか。青崎が俺を殺そうとしたのは魔術師であることを隠さなくちゃいけないからだったっけ？
Oh, now I get it. The reason you tried to kill me was because you had to hide the fact that you were a mage.
うん、それならわかる。監視するのは青崎の秘密のことで、俺の命云々はおまけみたいなものか。
Okay, if that's the case, I get it. You're monitoring me to protect your secret, and not taking my life as your way of throwing me a bone.
そりゃ本質的に言えばそうだけど、身も蓋もないわね、その言い方。
I mean, those aren't the words I would use, but sure. It sounds a bit harsh when you put it that way.
けどそれはあまり意味がないんじゃないか。
But isn't this all a little
学校
unrealistic?
もあるしバイトだってあるんだ。一日中この家から出ないわけにはいかないんだぞ。
I have school and work to go to. I can't stay locked up inside this house all day. In an instant, Soju's objectivity had him stumped, leaving her at a loss for words. He honestly had no idea what position he was in. To believe that he had any sort of freedom at this point was shocking to say the least.
いや、落ち着け私。話が早くなってある意味助かるし。
Just breathe, Aoko. If anything, this will speed things along. Aoko somehow managed to compose herself. As a matter of fact, she never had any intention of imprisoning him. Stripping him of his freedom and incarcerating him would go against her agreement anyway. Besides, if it was going to go that far, it would be easier to just kill him. To Aoko, letting him live meant showing a modicum of respect to Soju's way of life.
もしかしてこの部屋から出ちゃいけないのか俺。
You're not saying... Wait, don't tell me I can't even leave this room. A light bulb went on inside his head as he blurted out what he was thinking. It appeared he had finally got the grim message. Aoko looked somewhat satisfied at his dismay.
大丈夫よ。監禁生活なんて面倒なことだけはしないから。
Relax, locking me up would actually be more trouble than it's
あなた
worth.
の自由はそれなりに考慮してあります。そのあたりのさじ加減はアリスの手腕に任せてあるから、あなたは心配しなくていいわ。
Your freedom is taken in consideration. To what degree your free... to what degree your free will be left... To what degree you are free will be left to the discretion of Alice and her abilities, so you don't have to worry about that. Felt like a comma was missing now. A gloomy look fell over Soju's face as he found his concern grow by the second.
いい。あなたの処遇はこの家に住むことを前提にした監視で、それも解決策が見つかるまでの期間限定。
Alright, look, sparing your life is based on the premise that you will live in this house under supervision, and is only until a more permanent solution is
何
found.
でもいいから目撃者を殺すなんてことより、こっちの方がよっぽど穏便でしょ。
It's a lot more amicable than just disposing of the witness, don't you think?
だいたいこれは私とあなたとの約束なんだから、いちいち文句言わないでよね。ただでさえアリスとの冷戦が続いてて頭痛いんだから。
At any rate, this is my way of keeping our promise, so no complaining. This Cold War I'm waiting with Alice is enough of a headache already. She sighed as she stared Soju down as he lay on the bed.
けど勘違いはしないで。
But make no mistake,
ここじゃあんたの地位は最下層のさらに下、番犬より下なんだから。あんたの生殺与奪はあの夜から私が握ってるんだから。あんたは私に所有されてるようなもんなの。
your status here is the lowest of the low, even lower than the dogs. Since that night, I'm the one to decide if you'll live or die, which means you'll belong to me now.
さ、これで自分の立場分かっ
Is
た？
that clear enough for you? As Aoko finished the declaration, Soju suddenly looked at the ceiling so she would not notice his reaction. He meant no offense to Aoko, but he had to hide the fact that he fundamentally disagreed with her analogy. In Soju's opinion, it was disrespectful to both dogs and humans to call him lower than a dog. A more accurate analogy of their power dynamic would be that of a rabbit and a wild boar. That's why he chose not to voice his opinion. Unlike his apartment, the ceiling here was decorated with ornate patterns. Putting aside how he would be treated here, in terms of lodging it was definitely a definite upgrade. Maybe it would not be that bad at all. Soju nodded slowly as to persuade himself, and...
とりあえず命は助けてあげるから。
For the time being, I've decided to let you live. That's what she had told him, not 2 days ago.
あまり納得したくないけど自分の立場は分かったよ。確かにそんな約束だった。いろいろと言いたいことはあるけどそれは認めるしかない。
Well, I don't really accept what you're saying. I understand my position. I remember that what you promised me now. There's a lot of things I could disagree with, but I admit you did promise that me at least
だ
that.
けど君たちと一緒に住めっていうのは本気なのか。青崎は細かいことは気にしないとしてもさっきの子は嫌がりそうだし俺だって少しは。
Are you really serious about me living with the two of you? I know you're pretty easygoing, but that girl seems pretty against it, and I'm not exactly... At that point he zipped his lips. Aoko's eyes were tinged with bloodlust.
あら、しずきくんはご不満？
Oh, please excuse me. I'm sorry to hear that you're dissatisfied with the arrangement. A contrived smile, so obviously forced, struck despair into Soju's heart. Come to think of it, he vaguely recalled her warning to him to not make her repeat herself. Furthermore, as a practical matter, Soju Sasuke's life is now in the hands of Aoko Aozaki. It would be unwise to anger her further, he told himself as to speaking to a third person.
いや、別に。だってそれ以外ないんだろ。
No, not at all. I mean, what's yours to have anyway? None, Aoko said with a firm nod of her head. Soju slumped his shoulder in surrender.
青崎の言い分は分かった。
Alright, I understand you now, Aozaki.
一応聞いておきたいんだけど、俺の人権はどこに行ってしまったんだろう。
Just let me ask you this one thing. Do I have any human rights?
バカね。そんな形のないものなんて初めからあるわけないでしょ。つまんないこと言わないでよ。
Poor little Sizuki, you never had any in the first place. Now stop wasting my time with stupid questions. Soju reflected upon her answer, now feeling that this question was indeed stupid. He should have already known the answer before he asked.
ああ、だと思った。そんな気はしてたんだ。目が覚める前から。
That's what I thought. I had a feeling this was going to happen even before waking up. His muttering provoked a dubious stare from Aoko before she quickly retracted it. If she questioned every little thing he said, it would be there until sundown.
とにかく納得いったみたいね。
Well, as long as you understand.
いよいよ本題。今に移動するわよ。説明しなくちゃいけないことが山ほどあるんだから。
Now, we need to get down to brass tacks. Let's move to the drawing room. I have a ton of explaining to do.
一人で立てる？
Can you stand on your own?
さっきから手を動かしてたから血は巡ってる。歩くぐらいならいけそうだ。
I was able to move my hand earlier, so blood is at least flowing. Should be able to walk.
そう、
He's sat
なら
and
問
done
題ないよ
everything now
ね。
for multiple days. Good, you'll be fine then. With that, she turned her back and walked away from him. He had seen this bold form of hers many times before. Instantly, the memories flashed back to him like lightning.
そうだった。青崎はこういうやつだった。
I remember now. This is Aozaki I know. Without knowing it, he cracked a smile. He was so lost that he didn't know that he knew his left from right, but recalling this alone is enough to calm him. The Aoko he knew was different from the one in the House of Mirrors. She was not the brooding girl he saw there. He felt a pang of nostalgia. The Aoko he knew was brisk in movement and unfaltering engaged, just like this one. She was the same as when he first met her, moody yet overflowing with confidence in her element.
ほら、急いだ急いだ。
Let's go, chop chop.
アリスがさっきから居間でお待ちかねよ。
Alice is waiting for us in the drawing room. She was already outside the door, standing in the chilly corridor. Corridor?
寝たきりの辛さを知らないだろう、青崎は。
You must not know what it is like to be bedridden, Naozaki. Grunting and groaning, Soju eventually got to his feet. His body heavy and stiff while he was lying down, cried out in pain as he tried to stand and walk. Every step sent a shooting pains through his bones. Despite this, he put on a calm face and made his way towards Aoko. Typically, he was quick not to pay any mind to life's little struggles, but these pains, he needed to force himself to consciously ignore them. In other words, he was displaying false bravado, an uncharacteristic reaction for someone who would never suppress their true feelings.
驚いた。あんた本当にタフね。
Amazing, you really are tough,
あ
huh?
りがとう。けど心は弱いんだ。
Thanks, it's just my heart that's fragile.
そう。参考までに心に留めておくわ。できるだけ
Oh, yeah?
優しく扱えるようにね。
Oh yeah? I'll keep it in mind and try not to hurt your precious feelings. Naturally, her voice was devoid of any true empathy. She turned away from the once more dejected Sojiro and began walking briskly down the corridor.
と、
Oh, and... Just then she stopped. Feet snapped together as though something had popped into her head. And it's just as if she was remembering something that she had forgotten in a completely trivial way.
それじゃあ行くわよ。ついてきて、宗十郎。
Follow me, Sojiro. She calmly turned back the way she was heading. The words were sounding so natural as she spoke to him. And she spoke to him. Eek. struggling with English today again. How could you not see the look in Sojuro's eyes as he heard her words? For those who walked in the arcade, the spell Oka had woven was apparent to everyone but her. After blinking his eyes as if blinded by something, Sojuro casually nodded and followed behind her. The sheer size of the interior was daunting. The 3 floors of this mansion contained more rooms than Sojuro's entire apartment building. Except, the size was excessive. Here the mansion's rooms seemed too numerous for so few inhabitants, its lavish carpeted halls called in the airy. The guest room that Sojuro had been sleeping in was on the 2nd floor of the east wing. A staircase leading down to the 1st floor was at the end of the corridor, at the center of the mansion. Winter sunlight beamed through the windows, which only made the empty corridor appear even lonelier. The center of the mansion was topped by a vaulted skylight overlooking the 1st floor. The staircase connecting the 1st and 2nd floors lined its walls. Another staircase at the other end of the 2nd floor corridor presumably led to an attic, or a storeroom of sorts on the 3rd floor. Paying no mind to Sojuro's gawking, Aoko descended the stairs with familiar steps. The foyer was a place of white and wood grain. Its hardwood floor shone brightly under the sunlight coming in from the ceiling, and the tall white walls were spotless and brawny. There was a staircase leading to the 2nd floor, and a long unused fireplace. A neglected telephone sat on the table, and opposite the solemn grandfather clock. It was more like an old castle than a mansion. Aoko shot Sojuro a callous stare, who stood captivated by the otherworldly scenery.
今はこっちよ。ぼさっとしない。
Hey, snap out of it. The drawing room is this way. She grabbed the knob of the door next to the stairs. There were 4 doors in the foyer, and the easternmost was the easternmost as you entered the house led to the drawing room. Oops. The door on the opposite side of the foyer led to the mansion's west wing. To the south was the entrance. On the north side was one more door next to the fireplace. Tucked underneath the stairs, the door connected to the bathroom and Nurse Sojuro. Due to the lack of windows, the 1st floor corridors were not well lit. The second floor was a settlement and an infirmary, and the foyer is in some foreign castle. Then the 1st floor corridor was a windowless labyrinth unlike corridors of a hotel. Although it did not belong since Sojuro came to the city, even he could feel this place was out of the ordinary. Seeing as how he was going to be stuck here for the foreseeable future, he found it hard to get excited about living in a haunted house.
そこが今で、奥が厨房ね。簡単な料理ぐらいはできるようになってるから。
So that's the drawing room, and a little farther down is the kitchen. It's fine for cooking simple
今の
meals.
隣にはサンルームがあるんだけど、ここが食卓の代わり。
Here next to the
そんなの後でいっか。
oops. Here next to the drawing room is the sunroom, which we use as a dining room, but we'll get into that later. Aoko said, reaching a door along the dim corridor. However, she paused before turning the knob. She flashed Sojuro a meaningful glance, which he quickly withdrew. Then, without further ado, she opened the door.
お待
Oh,
た
yes,
せ。
the Sunny TV.
承諾したわよ、あいつ。
Sorry for the wait, he's on board, she said to Alice as she entered the drawing room. After hesitating for a moment, Sojuro entered after her. Compared to the corridor, the drawing room is unexpectedly modern. The carpeted floor, leather sofas, and a large 30-inch television were more than what Sojuro had come to expect in a normal home. In this family-oriented room, a girl far removed from such setting sat quietly in the sofa. Aoko sat on the sofa. Man, why am I struggling so much today? Aoko sat on the sofa across from the girl, all in black. This gave Sojuro 2 seating options. Next to Oko Aozaki, or next to Alice Koonji. After about 2 seconds of deliberation, he decided to stand by the wall as neither option appealed. Aoko and Alice were facing each other across a coffee table. The clean, perfectly level table saw added to the austere atmosphere.
当事者も認めたことだし、これで何の問題もないわね、アリス。
And since he agreed, you shouldn't have any objections. Right, Alice? Alice gave one deep nod in response to a non-question. From his position against the wall, they looked as though they were clearing up some niggling grievance. Sojo got the feeling that the two did not entirely see eye to eye concerning what to do with him.
そうね。原因も究明しないといけないし。
He chose neither. I suppose not, but we still need to investigate the cause. She cast a sideways look at Sojo with those dark-shaded eyes of hers. Her voice shared the same cold indifference, making it abundantly clear that she had no intention of accepting him as a housemate.
けれど、あなたはそれでいいの？
And you're fine with
遊
this.
園地でのことを忘れてはいないでしょ？
I do hope you haven't forgotten about what happened at the amusement park. Alice's voice was a mixture of judgment and scrutiny. She was aware that from an outsider's perspective, she and Oko appeared to be dangerous. She wanted to know if Sojo was up to the chance of living with such people.
そりゃ夢だと思い込みたいけど、ちゃんと覚えてるし。
I wish it all had
でき
been
る
a
だ
bad
け無事に済
dream,
ま
but
せ
I
るには
remember it
これ
perfectly.
が一
Oh, you're still talking. Oops. Above all else, it was the only way they would let him live. Alice responded apathetically with a non-committal murmur. She silently placed a small object on the table with a clink. She pulled her pale fingers away from the small glass bottle. The glass, more pale blue than transparent, was enough to signify its high quality. With a crane-like motive, she removed the stopper. A crane-like motion. If you noticed it was the first time he had seen such a thing, something about it made him uneasy. What was it that made him... Was it that it made him sad, or... Aoko's standoffish behavior only added to his concern. Alice once again fixed her eyes on Sojiro, who was bracing himself for the worst. The glint in her eyes was bewitching. Without a single emotion apparent on her face, she called his name.
しずきくん、
Sizuki.
はい。
Yeah, The moment he responded to a whispered call, his surroundings began to transform. The air grew thick, so thick it took a color and shape. The density and discomfort that crawled around his skin made it seem like he had become words. Oh, he's stuck in a ball, isn't he? Opening his mouth to gasp for air, the words invaded his lungs. Instinctively, he covered his mouth with his right hand and clutched his chest with the left, both hands appearing clear as mud. Even the figures of mountain folks never seized his senses like this. If he had come up with an analogy, no words could quite describe it, but it was like standing in the pages of a newspaper. The first sense to adjust to his new sensation was his hearing. Then his breathing stabilized, yet the feeling of suffocation remained. There was nothing restraining him that he could see, but he felt an intense claustrophobia. Before he even felt shocked at the sudden change, he reached out in an attempt to find an escape. But his outstretched hands found only emptiness. It seemed contradiction that a place with no walls and a wide view could be so cramped. I mean, have you ever walked in dense fog? Spirited in dense fog. Back in the mountains, such superstitions never seemed real to him, until now. And then, he finally noticed. A surprise to beat all surprises. The drawing room had not changed into another world at all. He knew for certain because he could still see the room he was in just through the fog. As well as the two girls, Oko, Ozaki and Else Koji, watching him closely. It was simply a problem of perspective. The floor was dark and perfectly flat. Looking up, the two of them stood. The girls were like two impossibly gargantuan clouds, coldly looking down at him. Remembering the structure of the room and the layout of the furniture, Sojiro's unsurpassed candor finally grasped his predicament. The parade at the amusement park had nothing on this. Somehow he was inside a glass bottle that I was going to produce only moments ago.
図らずも
That was unexpected. Marveling at Alice's wickedness, Aoko glanced at the small bottle on the table.
2日前の夜と同じ状況になったわね。今回そいつは起きてるけど。
It's the same as 2 nights ago, only this time he's awake. Aoko calmly mused. Alice, however, was not looking down at the bottle, instead her eyes were locked on Aoko.
意外ね。青子は怒ると思ってたのに。
I'm surprised. I thought you would be upset.
いや、私も似たようなこと考えてたから。
No, Ellie. I thought about doing something similar.
少しは魔術ってもんを思い知らせておかないと困るでしょ。
You need to be taught a little lesson about magecraft anyway.
アリスがやってくれるなら止めはしないし、怒りもしないわ。
You're saving me the trouble, so to tell the truth, I'm not even mad.
ま、 こっちが予定していたものより何倍もめちゃくちゃだけど。
Oh, this is pretty hardcore even for me. Aoka did not take her eyes off the ball as she spoke. Although she did her best not to feign indifference towards Alice's magecraft, she could not completely hide her curiosity. The figure inside the ball likely having caught onto what was happening, tried various things like flailing its arm and sprinting around. The surface of the ball was cloudy, so it was hard to make out exactly what was happening inside.
ところで、これって私にくれたやつとは別物みたいだけど。
By the way, this looks totally different from the one you gave me.
あれより作りは細かいわ。
This one took more time to create.
青子にあげたのは使い捨ての隔離するだけのものよ。これはお互いの声も聞こえるから。
The one I gave you was disposable and only made to isolate the subject. This one allows for two-way communication.
へえ。けど、その割には何の反応もないよね。
Really? He doesn't seem to be replying though.
青子には聞こえないだけよ。
You just can't hear it. Alice sat calmly, finally dropping her gaze on the bottle. Just then, the figure inside stopped moving. It appeared only Alice had a connection to the world inside the bottle.
なんだ、術者にしか特典はないんだ。
Lame. Only the caster gets to have the fun. Aoko sighed, losing interest. Ignoring Aoko, Alice opened her mouth as to speak someone altogether there.
どう？これでも一番無難だと思う。
How about now? Still think this is the safest option? The person she was talking to was none other than the one inside the bottle. She was of course referring to Soju's earlier comment. It was her way of testing the boy who implied that living in this mansion seemed safe.
いきなり小瓶に閉じ込めて聞き返すあたり、容赦ないというか。
Suddenly dropping him in a bowl and
an
Also think Maya's there. Suddenly trapping him in a bowl and interrogating him is pretty ruthless, but even more worrisome is her attachment to this mansion. Then again, considering Aoko had invited his witness to a house of mirrors for a fight to the death, she was in no position to criticize. She would make sure Alice did not let her emotions get the best of her, but for now she was content to observe as a bystander. After a moment, Alice's expression changed. She must have gotten an answer to her question. Without a way to tell what the situation was inside the bottle, Aoko had no idea what the answer was, however. Only that Alice's face was the one she had made when the boy was talking to her. That Alice's face was the one that had made when. I was struggling with this line. That Alice's face was the one she had made when the boy was talking to. Said that she wanted to hear. I think there needs to be a comma here. I
私が言えること
feel
で
like
も
I'm
ないけ
seeing a
ど
lot of spelling mistakes today. Maybe that's just me. I suppose I'm not the one to talk, but. For an instant, she glanced at Aoko. Slightly shaking her head, she reached for the small bowl.
本当物好きね、しずきくんは。
The Shizuki is quite a strange one. She said his name, it would seem like a fallen frown. As soon as she removed the stopper, the air in the room quivered. The boy who had been casting a shadow on the wall until a minute ago now leaned against it for support again. Aoka turned around to face Soju right behind her, resting her elbow over the back of the sofa.
どう？気分は。
How do you feel?
見ての通り、めちゃくちゃだ。
What does it look like? Messed up. Soju answered in unusual hostility. Aoka was reminded of his strange behavior, and she was sure that he would be scared or shocked, not angry.
夢で似たようなものを見てなかったら、今頃心臓が止まってたところだ。そこはついてたと思う。
Yes. If I had already seen something similar in a dream, my heart probably would have stopped. I'm lucky it didn't.
信じられないのは、なんでいちいち実践するかってことだ。魔術は怖いものなんだって言えば済むだろうに。
What I can't believe.
それと、物騒な青崎の声、聞こえてたぞ。
What I can't believe is why you felt the need to use magecraft on me. You could have just told me it was scary and left it at that. Plus, I could hear the threatening things you said, Aozaki.
物騒で悪うございました。
My sincerest apologies.
けど、言葉じゃなくてきちんと実感してもらいたかったのは本当よ。
But it is true I wanted you to feel it for
ど
yourself.
う？魔術ってもんを甘く見てたでしょ、宗十郎。
At least now I'll take magecraft seriously, won't you, Sojiro? As much as he hated to admit it, she was right. Though it was not that he had taken magecraft lightly, but merely that he couldn't understand
け
it.
ど、実感うんぬん言われても困る。
I still don't really get it though, even after that experience.
これまでの青崎の無茶っぷりと、 今のわけのわからなさはとても比べられない。
Compared to the crazy stuff I've seen you do, Awazaki, whatever the heck just happened to me was hardly unbelievable.
そりゃそうよ。アリスと比べないでよね。
Nah, of course not. Alice and I are totally different.
アリスの魔術は私たちの中でもデタラメで、もう言葉にできないぐらい最悪なんだって言ったでしょ。
I already told you, even in our world, her magecraft is considered over the top and unspeakably horrible.
失礼ね。人命を脅かすという点なら青子の方がよっぽどひどいと思うけど。
How rude. When it comes to which of us is more of a threat to human life, I think you're far more dangerous than me.
それよりあなた、本当に彼を殺す気はあったの？
And that's beside the point. I'm starting to harbor doubt you even wanting to kill him in the first place.
一体どんな追い詰め方をすれば青崎なら多分安全なんて言葉が返ってくるのかしらね。
You must have been pretty soft on him, for him to only say that he believes he's safe here.
そんなのあんたに決まってるでしょ。
Well, of course I wanted to kill
こ
him.
いつが何て言ったか知らないけど、絶対意味違うから。
I don't know what he's told you, but you've got it all twisted.
こいつはね、そもそも何が危ないのかやけどするまで気づかない。
This guy doesn't realize he's in danger until he gets burnt.
っていうか、やけどしても、よし、死ななきゃ安いなんて本気で思っちゃう天然ボケなの。
And even then, he'd probably think, well, at least I'm still alive, and whistle all the way home.
ねえ、そうでしょ、宗十郎。
Isn't that right, Sojiro?
え？
Huh? He had no idea why she was so suddenly shouting, but he nodded over anyway, just to be safe. The drawing room had become awfully noisy. Alice sat watching the two at a complete loss. And so, Sojiro accepted his supervised life in the mansion. And that he would be living under the same roof as two professional mages. Having experienced firsthand how dangerous that life could get, he was finally at peace with the situation.
まあそういうことなら。
If that's how it's going to be, then oh well. Even if he doesn't seem like it, he had thought it through his own way and come to a clear resolution.
それじゃあ、やっと本題に入れるわね。
Okay, down to business.
監視するとは言ったけど、どうやって宗十郎を監視するのか。そもそもあなたを監視する原
Just
因
stick
にな
some
った
familiars
魔術と
on
は
him.
何
It'll
な
be
のか。
fine.
そのあたり、ざざっと説明させてもらうわ。
So, I know we said that you'd be under supervision, but we haven't really talked about how we'd be doing that, or the magecraft that is responsible for enforcing it. Let me start with a brief explanation. Perhaps he was brought up to listen closely to lectures about new information, because Sojiro suddenly looked attentive. Alice, on the other hand, kept her mouth shut in silent defiance.
最初に言っておくと、あんたをここに住まわせる期限は決まってるから。
First off, the time you'll be made to live here has been predetermined.
要はその期限まで誰にも私たちのことを喋らず、また勝手に死ななければ晴れて自由の身ってこと。
In short, until the end of that period, if you don't tell anyone about us or die for some reason, you're free to go.
ね、
I mean, if he dies,
そう
he
よね、
dies.
アリス。
Good so far, Alice.
そうね。私たちを怒らせなければそういう可能性もあるわね。
Indeed, provided he refrains from angering us, that is, he has a chance of survival.
よし、いきなり話が食い違ってる。
Yep, this is already off on the wrong foot. Sergio's head dropped, like he knew what was coming.
ちょっと黙ってて、アリス。
That's enough, Alice.
あとあんたも黙ってろ。
And you shut up. Just called at the two of them, already at their wits' end.
話を続けるけど、
As I was saying,
秘密保持のためにあんたを住まわせる場合、二次災害はどうしても避けられない。
having you live with us for the sake of confidentiality means other problems are bound to come up.
同じ家にいる以上、余計に秘密を見せることになるからね。アリスはそれが嫌なんだろうけど。
You'll likely be exposed to even more of our secrets. That's what has Alice so bent out of shape. Now that Doko mentioned it, Soju could see her point. With the target of observation under house arrest, the disclosure of more confidential information was inevitable.
ちょっと待ってくれ。堂々巡りじゃないか、それ。
Hold on a second. Doesn't that make me being here a little counterproductive?
大丈夫、問題ないわ。だって最後にはここで暮らした記憶ごと私たちのことを忘れてもらうことにしたから。
It's not a problem. In the end, we'll just have you forget everything about us and living here at all. Why don't you make him forget that he saw you in the first place then if you're going to do this?
忘れてもらう
Let me forget?
そう公園での一件から丸ごと全部忘れてもらう
Right, from the incident in the park onward, you'll forget
ル
everything.
ーンっていう魔術系統があるんだけどねその中でサクッと記憶を忘れさせるものがあるのよ
Why are we going through this if you can wipe his memory to begin with? What is the point of that? Just wipe his memories and be on your merry way. Oh, this has me bothered. Oh no. There's a kind of magecraft called runes that has the power to make one forget memories.
非人道的であるのは変わらないけどま命を消す代わりに記憶を消すってことで妥協して
It's a bit inhumane, but erasing your memory seems a bit better than, well, erasing your life.
青崎それは
Do I get to say in?
悪いけど反論は却下
Sorry, but no objections.
で肝心の忘却のルーンなんだけど私もアリスも専門外だから文献を探して習得するのに時間がかかる
Anyway, an amnesia rune is outside of our field of expertise, so it's going to take some time for us to find a rune and learn everything about it.
つまりそれが監視の期限ってわけ
In other words, that's when you get to leave.
私たちが忘却のルーンを見つけるまで命を担保に口を閉じていてもらうわ
Until you find this rune, we're using your life as collateral, so keep your mouth shut.
アリスはそんなややこしいことはせずに五感全部壊してしまおうなんて言ってるけど
Alice's idea is that we destroy your 5 senses and be done with you to avoid the extra effort.
しずきくんリビングスタチューとか嫌でしょ
So, Sizuki, what do you say? Fancy becoming a living statue? The faces she makes are great, by the way. Soju only understood about 80% of what Oko had explained, and the last part about the living statue gone straight over his head. He tried his best to visualize what Oko was going on about, but the only thing he could conjure in his mind was the image of a mascot creature, Ketsi.
それは確かに
Yeah, I'd rather not. Oko agreed that the bewildered Sojiro, neither one the wiser to the other one's misinterpretation.
とにかく遅くても1ヶ月で忘却のルーンは見つけ出せるだろうし1回きりの実行ならプラス2ヶ月ぐらいでなんとかなるわ
Anyway, at most it'll probably take about a month to find his amnesia rune, and another 2 to put it to
それ
use.
まであんたにはここで暮らしてもらうわけだけど私たちについて無知のまま歩き回られると命の保証はできないのよ
Until then, and that means you'll be living with us. However, we can't just let you wander around without a clue what's going on. That's a surefire way to get yourself killed.
そっちもこっちの事情を知らないのは気持ち悪いだろう
It's
し
long enough until the
なん
swimsuit
で
episode. Oh
今から
no.
簡潔に現代の魔法使いの何たるかを教えてあげる
I doubt you would be comfortable being left in the dark about us either. So, starting now, I'm going to fill you in what it's like to be a modern magician.
それで少しは私たちへの勘違いもなくなるだろうし
At the very least, it'll hopefully prevent any more misunderstandings. I'll go through the effort though. Not that she thought it was about a country bumpkin and any idea of old or new anyway. The tall draws of smoke grinned to her lips.
洋館のことは後にしてまずは私たちの立場についてね
Let's leave it all for the mention for later and start with who and what mages are.
あでも1から100まで理解する必要はないから
And don't worry, you don't need to understand everything right away.
どうせ門外漢なんだし感じ入ったことだけしっかり噛み締めておきなさい
You're an outsider after all, so just bite off only what you can chew. Soju nodded obediently to Oka's professional instructions. This was Oka's way of telling him not to ask questions when he did not understand something. Until Soju had taken issue with the statement, he meekly obeyed, knowing it better than to object right now. Oka nodded approvingly at his attentiveness and started a lecture. A long lecture.
まず魔術師魔法使いの話からね
And let's start with mages and magicians, basically.
魔術と魔法の違いは宗十郎には関わりのない話だからしないけどそれぞれ別種のものだと思ってくれればいいわ
Since it does not concern you, I'll skip the part about magecraft and magic are not the same. All you need to remember is that they are two very different things.
で魔術師のことだけどこれは絶対条件として隠された存在でなくてはならないの
Mages, as an absolute rule, must operate in secrecy.
同業者に知られるのは仕方ないとしてもあなたみたいに関わりのない人間に知られるのは罪に当たるほとんど死罪クラスのね
Naturally, mages will find out about other mages, so it's only a crime if an outsider like you finds out about one of us. A crime punishable by death, I should add.
なぜかっていうと魔術ってのは隠されていないと力が薄れてしまうものだから
The reason being, that the more magecraft is exposed, the weaker it becomes.
神秘の語源は閉ざすというギリシャ語だけど 魔術は限られた水着でなければ魔術でなくなってしまう。
You'll often hear us say mystic or mystery, which comes from a Greek word that means to shit with the mouth. It follows the magecraft would cease to be if its secrets were revealed.
文明にとって未知なるもの、未開なるものは開かれていないからこそ恐怖に値するのと同じね。
Civilization has always treated the unexplored and unknown as things to be feared because of their mysterious nature.
知られたら迫害されるから隠すじゃないの。
But we don't hide ourselves because we fear persecution if we are discovered.
未知で亡くなった魔術師というより魔術ね。
What we fear is the loss of the unknown itself.
明かされた魔術は力を弱めてしまう。だから隠匿するのよ。何より私たちの未来のために。
When our worlds are revealed, they become weaker. So by protecting our secrecy, we're also protecting our own future.
魔術の仕組みはよくわからないけど、とにかく自分だけの秘密でないと弱くなるってことか。
I'm not clear on how magecraft works yet, but I think what you're saying is that if you don't keep it a secret, it gets weaker.
じゃあ青崎も弱くなってるのか？俺が見ちゃったから。
So then, doesn't mean you got weakened under the Saya, Ozaki?
いいえ、別に。
No, not particularly.
ここからはちょっと込み入った話でね。
Let me explain it in a little more detail.
弱くなるっていうのはあくまで全体。それも随分と未来の話。個人単位では関係のない話よ。
When I say it loses power, I mean magecraft as a whole will get weaker in the future. I'm not talking about individuals.
汝、隠匿すべしって不分律は、この大元の仕組みが形骸化して、いつの間にか絶対のルールになっているだけなの。
The unwritten law that thou shalt conceal thyself, that was an adage from a bygone age, but at some point it became a law of the highest order.
文明社会の法律と一緒よ。犯罪、不道徳を罰するのは人間的であろうとする意識の高さと、それとは全く別の全体の仕組みを守るための構造的な結論でしょ。
It's like laws in a civilized society. We like to think that it is human nature to punish crime and immorality, but ultimately it's a structural solution that's needed to maintain order.
犯罪が罰せられるのは野放しにしたらせっかく築いた社会がうまく機能しなくなるから。
If crimes are left unpunished, the society we strive so hard to build would collapse.
で、私たちにとって犯罪にあたるのは神秘の一般化、低俗化であって、不道徳とか殺人とかはまあそれぞれの良心次第ってことで基本的に罪にもならない。
And what we may consider to be a crime is dissemination and vulgarization of the mystic. Merely immoral things like murder, well, those are a matter of perspective, and they generally aren't considered outright crimes.
そんなろくでもない連中にルールを敷いたのが魔術協会っていう集まり、組合みたいなものよ。
The good for nothing bunch of responsible for imposing this law is a group called the Mages Association. Think of them as a labor union. Well, they're all assholes,
魔
but
術を普及
sure.
の神秘とせよというのは魔術を魔術として永続させるために敷いたルールに過ぎないわ。
The phrase, make eternal the mysticism of magecraft, is nothing more than a rule they created to perpetuate magecraft itself.
けどその原則は絶対でさ、
Nevertheless, the rule is absolute.
これを破った者は魔術世界にはいられなくなる。
Those who violate it cease to exist in the magical
い
world.
え、実際問題として生きていくのが困難になる。
Or rather, it would be difficult for them to go on living at all.
私たちは私たちのまあ魔術師としての命、
For us, that's our, well, our life as mages, I guess.
そういうのを守るために目撃者であるあんたを消さなくちゃいけなかった。
In order to protect it, we had no choice but to erase you, the witness to our magecraft.
そこ同情とかしなくていいから。私たちの事情を知ったぐらいで遊園地のことを帳消しにしないでよ。
Don't give me those puppy dog eyes. Just because you know a little about our lives doesn't mean we're not fessing up to what happened at the amusement park.
私たちは私たちの判断であんたを殺そうとしたんだから。
It was our decision to
誰かに
try
のせいっ
and
てわ
kill
けじゃ
you.
ない。
It wasn't anyone else's fault.
恨むならきちんと私を恨んでちょうだい。
So if you're going to blame anyone, blame me.
ま、それはともかく
Okay, back to the topic.
過去魔術師は職業として成り立ったぐらい社会に認知されていたけど、その魔術自体は墓まで持っていく秘密だった。
In the past, mages were recognized in society enough for it to be considered an occupation, but they took their own magecraft with them to their graves.
それがどう歪んだかは知らないけど、現代ではその職業すら秘密にしなくてはならなくなった。
I don't know what led to things getting so twisted, but even the profession itself has to be kept a secret these days.
そこまでしないと
I believe the church from that one, I imagine.
魔術すら消費するだけのものに
I'm
改
surprised
変
the
され
church
る
hasn't come up in this game
教
yet.
会は恐れたのよ。
If they didn't go that far, the association feared that in the distant future, magecraft would be used up and the association would fall apart.
自然界の仕組みもかつて天上の領域だった宇宙の運営すら私たちは人知で解き明かせるほどになった。
We had reached a point where everything became explainable through human knowledge, from the building blocks of nature to the fabric of the cosmos, once considered to be the realm of the gods.
人の手に余るもの、神秘という未知の領域にとって魔術が最後の砦になると教会の設立者は信じたのかもしれない。
Maybe the founders believed that magecraft would become the last bastion for the unknown, for mystics that which is beyond humans' reach.
それとも魔術なんてもう意味がないって達観したのかもね。
Or maybe they thought that in the long run magecraft would eventually become meaningless.
そんなわけで魔術師はその正体を隠して各々の秘技を伝えていった。他人に教えるわけにはいかないから必然的にその伝承者は子孫になる。
Whatever the reason, mages hid their identities and passed on their individual rituals in secret, and since they couldn't pass it on to outsiders, it was only natural that they taught it to their descendants.
私もアリスもそうやって何代か続いた連中の末なのよ。
Alice and I are both products of generations of lineage.
さっき言った魔術協会っていうのはそんな細々と続いてる連中を束ねる一大組織。魔術師にとって司法の神ってところかしらね。
The Mages Association I mentioned earlier is a vast organization that covers those magecraft wielders still dedicated to the field. Mages think of them as a willing body.
教会もいろんな派閥に分かれるんだけど大抵の魔術師はロンドンの魔術協会に属している。汝隠匿すべしっていうのも教会の三大原則の一つよ。
The association is actually made up of a bunch of factions, and the vast majority of mages are affiliated with the London chapter, allowed to conceal ourselves as one of the three main principles.
魔術師が一般人に秘密を漏らすと教会から罰が下される仕組みになっている。
If a mage reveals a secret to a civilian, the association is quick to make an example of them.
そんな罰なんかなくても自分と血族が伝えた魔術のために目撃者は消さないといけないんだけど。
But even if the mage doesn't get punished, the witness should still be eliminated to protect the mage and the family's magecraft. And that was the end of the first part of the lecture. Rocco paused for a moment. Soju was doing his best to process the information.
次行くけどいい？
Ready to move on?
いいけどその前に確認したい。
Don't worry about it, Horus. Don't worry about it. Sure, but let me see if I understand it so far.
魔術師が正体を隠すのは自分のためじゃなく魔術のためだったけど、最近では自分の正体を隠すことの方が重要になっている。
Mages used to hide their identities not for their own sake, but for the sake of magecraft. Now they're more concerned with hiding themselves.
そしてその決まりを破ると教会というところからお咎めが来る。
And if you break the rules, you'll be punished by a place called the Association.
つまり青崎たちもその教会に入っているのか？
Does that mean that you two are members of the Association?
いいえ、私たちはフリーよ。一応教会とつながりはあるけどね。
No, we're freelance, though we walk in similar
単
circles.
純に教会は最大勢力ってだけ。連中は頼まれもしないのに魔術世界全体の秩序を守ってるの。
They're simply the largest organized group. Even though no one asked them to, they've taken it upon themselves to police the world of
だ
magecraft.
から私たちが何であれ
Who will
彼らと
tower?
の関わりがないにしても魔術師としての決まりを破ったら罰しに来るわ。
So no matter how unaffiliated we are as mages, if we break the rules, we get punished anyway.
わかった。大体飲み込めた。
Okay, I think I got the gist of
よ
it.
しよし。そうやって自分に必要な部分だけ手に入れなさい。
It's alright, just focus on the parts important to you.
次は魔術について。と言っても私自身語れるほど学んでいないんだけどね。
Next is magecraft, though I've barely learned enough to talk about it myself.
ごめん、こっちの話だから忘れて。
Sorry, forgot I said that.
さっきも言ったけど現代において魔術は無意味なものになりつつある。
I touched on this already, but these days magecraft is losing its
ラ
meaning.
イターのない大昔なら火を起こせればそれは魔術として成り立つわ。けど今は何かと便利でしょ。あなたならよくわかると思うけど。
Need to drink. If you created fire a long time ago, when there were no lighters, that was enough to count as a mystic feat. But nowadays life is awfully convenient, right? You of all people can appreciate that. Soju nodded with a glum look on his face. He had been made painfully aware of such conveniences. Difficult tasks that would occupy an entire day of work in the mountains could be performed easily here. For him, having been brought up in the mountains without electricity or running water, city life was by definition magic. He only wished it would not be such backbreaking work to adapt to such conveniences. Oh.
でも道具を使わずに火を起こせるのは神様の仕事だと思うけど。
I do think that creating fire without tools should be a god's job, though.
そのために積み重ねた手間は火炎放射器を手に入れるより面倒だとしても
Even though we've worked out how to do it more efficiently with a flamethrower. Soju wasn't sure to ask Aoko. It would have been easy for him to ask Aoko how accumulated effort she thought. It would have been easy for him to ask Aoko how. It would have been easy for him to ask Aoko how much accumulated effort she thought it had taken humans to imitate those gods, but he knew it would come across as an insult.
さっきのを見る限り魔術ってのは何でもできると思ったけどそれは誤解なのか
From what I just saw, I was under the impression that magecraft could do anything, but maybe I misunderstood. He glanced at the glass bottle on the table. Mentally he sighed in relief. He still had not to come to terms with the fact that he had been trapped inside a time chain. However...
あら、それこそ誤解よ。万能じゃなければ誰が魔術なんて学ぶと思ってるの
Oh, that's a misunderstanding, alright. If magecraft wasn't all powerful, why would anyone bother to learn it? Aoko puffed out the chest as she shouted at him.
手間暇かかるけど魔術にできないことはないわ。
It might take some time doing, but there's nothing magecraft can do.
中にはできていないけどできているように見せるみたいな何らかのイカサマはあるけどね。
Granted, some users are able to trick you into thinking something's possible when it really isn't.
この世界に生まれた以上、その許容範囲でできないことなんてないの。そこで魔法が出てくるんだけど、それはまた改めて。
But since we were born into this world, there was nothing we can do within its limits, besides true magic, of course. But we'll get into that some other time.
私が言いたかったのは、魔術は奇跡を起こしているのではなくて、その過程が奇跡だってこと。
What I'm trying to say is that magecraft doesn't create miracles, it's only the process that's miraculous.
結果が奇跡になるのは魔法の方なの。
To produce a real miracle, you need true magic.
偉大な魔術師っていうのは、個人の魔術だけで旅客機飛ばしたりする人のこと。
A great mage is someone who can fly a passenger jet only with their own
対し
magecraft.
て偉大な魔法使いっていうのは、今不可能なことを可能にする人のことよ。
Meanwhile, a magician deals in making the impossible possible.
そういった意味じゃ、私たちは最後の魔法使いになるかもしれないけどね。
Which is why we might just turn out to be the last magicians.
脱線してるわよ、青子。
Focus, Aoko. Alice had been quietly listening until she muttered a rebuke. As if Aoko had crossed the line.
そこまで教える必要はないでしょう。
He doesn't need to know that.
しずきくんに教えるべきことは、私たちと暮らす上で危険になることだけじゃなかった。
Shouldn't we be educating Sizuki on the dangers of living with us?
悪かったわ。ちょい口滑らせた。
Sorry, you're right. Slip off the tongue.
ともかく、魔術師っていうのは、暇さえあれば魔術の実験をしてる連中で、自分の家系が伝えてきた秘技を守るためなら、鬼でも悪魔にでもなる。
Anyway, mages spend every waking moment experimenting in magecraft, and will become devils in our heartbeat in order to protect their magecraft, by which I mean their family secrets.
必然、そのアジト。工房って言うんだけど、工房も魔術的な機構が積み重なって、要塞みたいになっちゃうのよ。
The last, which we call workshops, are like fortresses packed with all kinds of magical mechanisms.
秘技を守るために、入ってきた相手を問答無用で叩きのめす仕掛けとか。
Like traps that kill intruders before they even know what hit them. It's all to protect their secrets.
この洋館も、そういった工房と同じなの。
This mansion's no
無
different.
用心に歩き回って、さっきみたいなことになったら、私でも助けてあげられないから、暗闇には気をつけなさい。気がついたら鏡の中にいるとか本気であるから。
If you wind up trapped like you were before because you wanted to run carelessly, even I wouldn't be able to help you, so be careful of the dark. You might even find yourself stuck inside a mirror. Seriously, that can actually happen. Soju so hoped he would provide him with a general idea of what to watch out for, but he passed knowing that he was unlikely to get a straight answer.
枝葉から入っちゃったけど、要は私たちのプライベートに関わるなってこと。
It was a lot to take in one go, but my point is, keep your nose out of where it doesn't
い
belong.
くら最後には記憶を消すって言っても、それを見られた段階で消すしかないものもあるから。
Even though we're going to erase your memory in the end, there are still things that we'd have to kill you for seeing.
なるほど。この中にもルールがあることはよくわかった。他に注意すべきことは。
Got it. The Dimension has rules I have to follow. I understand. Is there anything else I should? His eyes wandered as he traveled mid-sentence, pondering. He understood that the Dimension was more dangerous than outside, and that magecrafters needed to stay secret. But the explanation seemed to contradict his current problem. For starters, how had he managed to witness something that he took such pains to keep hidden?
すまない。話の腰を折るんだけど、いいかな。
I'm sorry, it just occurred to me.
魔術師は教会という組織で結ばれてるんだろ。なら、どうして青崎はあんな人形に襲われたんだ？
Mages are all united under the organization called the Association, right? If that's the case, why were you attacked by that puppet, Aozaki?
あれの持ち主が魔術師なら、君たちは味方同士で争っていることになる。何か説明が不足していないか？
If its master was a mage, wouldn't that mean you were fighting an ally? Am I missing something here?
それは最後にしようと思ってたのよ。
I was saving that for last.
普通はここまでの話だけで眉唾者っていうか笑い飛ばすっていうか。
Normally this would be the point in the story where you say you made it all up or laughed off.
いくら経験済みだからって魔術なんてもんをあっさり受け入れるなんてできないっていうか。
Even if you experienced it, the existence of magecraft shouldn't be something you accept so easily. Helga scratched her head as though troubled by how Soju could take every word at face value. Across from her, Alice's face betrayed no expression, but she shared the same opinion.
おかしいのか？それ。
Is that so weird?
おかしいわよ。そもそもあんたは第一ステップから変だった。
It's mega weird. In fact, you've been weird from the get-go.
普通は驚いたり怖がったり無視したりするものなのに、どうして魔法使いだなんて言った私を信じたの？
A normal person would be shocked, scared, unwilling to accept our existence. Why do you of all people believe me when I say I'm a magician? In retrospect, this question should have been posed at the House of Mirrors. Back then, though Soju was surprised by seeing the phenomenon of magecraft for the first time, he showed no surprise or discomfort toward Haoko, the mage wielding it. Feeling the probing stares of the two girls, no, the two mages, made Soju feel uneasy. From where he was standing, their suspicion was suspicious in and of itself.
何でも何もない。青崎、山だよね。あるものはあるのが当たり前なんだよ。
There's no reason at all, really. Up in the mountains, people just accept things as they are.
理由をつけられるだけの知識がなかったからにしても、実際に見たものを信じないなんてことはないんだ。
We don't deny something we see in front of us just because we don't have the knowledge to explain it.
それに君も言ったろう。あなたにとっては魔法もライターも同じものなんだろうって。
You said it yourself. Lighters and magic might as well be the same thing, right? Though they weren't really the same to him anymore, he had his quality for shutting up. What he said about his innocent days in the mountains had come from the heart. And the words resonated with not only Oko Izaki but also Alice Konji. It was something everyone should have, principles to stand by. Indeed, to this boy these words were the unshakable truth.
あるものはあるか。
Some things are the way they are, I see what you're saying. She was impressed, if only slightly. This boy, no matter how much of an outlier he was, could accept the things around him. He would be able to get through this just fine.
そうね。宗十郎はそうなのよね。
That's a good way of explaining it, Sojiro.
簡単に信じてもらえることが信じられないなんて私たちの方がどうかしてたわ。
I guess it falls with us for not believing you sincerely. Much like when Naoko met Soju for the first time, in that classroom in his first day, Soju took everything that was happening in his stride. The memory brought a bit of smile to Oko's face.
じゃ、気を取り直してっと。
Alright, let's get back on track.
宗十郎の疑問だけどね。魔術師もいろいろあって、教会に属していない連中もいるの。
To your earlier question, for various reasons there are mages that don't belong to the association at all.
こういった連中は教会の目を盗んでやりたい放題で、利益目的で他の魔術師に喧嘩を売ってくる。あの人形の持ち主もその類。
They do as they please behind the association's back and fight the older mages for their personal gain. That puppet's master is one of those types.
そんな連中にとって私たちは都合のいい格好のカモなのよ。
To the Shirkwas, we're a convenient, easy target.
私たちは教会と協定関係にあるだけで門下ってわけじゃないから。私たちが殺されたところで教会は助けてくれないしね。
But just because we have an arrangement with the association doesn't mean we're one of them. It's not like they'll come to save the day if you're at risk of being killed.
でも魔術師が魔術を使うのは禁じてるんだろ？
But aren't mages forbidden from using magecraft?
それが公にならないのなら教会は目をつむるわ。
As long as it's not in public, the association turns a blind eye.
むしろバレなければ魔術師同士の争いを奨励してるぐらいよ。技術も使わないと錆びるってね。
Heck, they practically encourage fight between mages, as long as it's kept a secret, like if you don't use it, we'll get rusty or something.
私たちが襲われてるのはそれとは別の話で、単に土地を持ってるからなんだけど。
Anyway, the attacks on us are a different story and have to do with the fact that we own land.
土地ってこの家？
Well, land, do you mean this house?
まさか。この三崎市一帯の管理地の権利を持ってるのよ。私とアリスは。
Oh, please, just this house. Alice and I hold the rights to the entirety of Misaki City. We are administrators for the whole region.
管理地ってつまり土地の利権？
Administrators? You own all the land in Misaki? Dazzled, Sojiro looked away. He was sure he could see a halo of light around Oko. He'd only been renting an apartment for 2 weeks, but he was already aware of how magnificent the prospect of owning land in the city might be.
おお。
The word Soji was trying to articulate was rich. Rich. He shook all over with the emotion he didn't fully grasp.
悪いけど、そういうんじゃないから。
Hold it, you're thinking about this all wrong.
私たちで土地って言ったら、魔術師としての霊地の所有権、支配権のことを言うの。
When we say land, we're talking about the ownership and control of spiritual grounds as mages.
うちはマイナーだけど、古くからこの辺りに根を下ろしてた魔術師で、三崎町もうちの管理下ってわけ。
The Misaki family might be a minor player, but we got all the roots here as mages, which is why Misaki falls under our jurisdiction.
管理地っていうのはね、霊的な力が歪んで集まりやすい土地のこと。そういう土地は昔から貴重で、魔術の実践、実験には不可欠でもある。
When I say we administer the land, I'm talking about a place where spiritual power is assorted and gathers easily. This type of land has always been valuable, and is vital for the experimentation and practice of magecraft.
成功への絶対条件は、優れた霊地、堅固な工房、多くの弟子たちってね。
After all, the 3 pillars of what makes us successful mages are a strong workshop, lots of disciples, and fertile spiritual grounds.
魔術師たちにとって、土地付き館付きの住み家を持つのは、一つの野望なんだから。
To us, owning administered land and a residence to live in are number 1 on the priority list. Shoujo let her continue, while wondering exactly who these two girls were to have achieved both ambitions already.
でも、その管理地は大部分が教会に仕切られてて、もう余っている土地はないの。
However, most sacred grounds have already been claimed by the association. There's nothing left for anyone else.
はぐれ魔術師や土地のない魔術師は、教会に毎月寄付金を納めて土地を借りるしかない。
Not even in the mage world, huh?
手よく教会のお偉いさんたちに尽くす働き蜂ってところね。
Rogue and landless mages have no choice but to borrow land from the organization in exchange for a monthly donation. They're basically worker bees slaving away for the top dogs for the association.
でも、ここの土地は何百年も前から青崎のものだから、教会とは関係がないの。
But this land here, it's been in my family for hundreds of years, so the association can get their grubby hands on it.
ここまで言えばわかるでしょ。
It all comes back to territory ownership dispute, isn't it? Do you understand what I'm saying, Sojiro?
そういったフリーの連中からすれば、私たちの管理地はこの上ないごちそうなんだって。
To rogue mages, our land is the juiciest fruit there is. Sojiro nodded to himself and showed whether to call the conversation mundane or outright disturbing.
よくわかった。青崎たちは土地の奪い合いをしているんだな。
I get it. So you're basically fighting over the land.
そういうこと。
Pretty much.
ただ、岬の管理地はマイナーのさらにマイナーだから、やってくる挑戦者も三流ばっかりよ。
But because the administered land of Misaki is so minor, the challengers have been third rate.
今回の敵だって どっかの三流魔術師がここなら楽に奪えると思ってやってきたんだろうし、ま、それもあんたの乱入で急戦してるんだけど。
The enemy this time is probably some small fry thinking this place was low-hanging fruit. Though for now we're on a ceasefire because of your intrusion.
管理地の話はそれで十分よ、青子。
That's enough about Administrator Landargo.
しずきくんも他に魔術師がいると分かってくれたようだし。
Sizuki seems to understand to the point that there are older mages out there apart from
危
us.
険があるとすれば、私たちの戦いに彼が巻き込まれる可能性だけど。
If any danger exists, it's more likely to arise as a result of him becoming involved in one of our battles.
それは大丈夫でしょう。
He'll be
だっ
fine.
てこいつ魔力のかけらもないじゃない。魔力感知には引っかからないし、番犬以下の人間は戦力って言わないから狙われることもないだろうし。
Besides, this guy has zero trace of magical energy, so there is no chance of him being sensed. Plus, he has a less tactical value than a watchdog, so he shouldn't be a target anyway.
私たちはただ忘却のルーンを見つけるまでこいつを逃がさなければいいだけでしょ。
We'll just have to make sure he doesn't escape before we can find the amnesia rune. Alice silently stared her partner down. The ideas of involving Soju differed greatly in both gravity and risk. Aoko's lack of experience led her to believe that Soju would not get directly involved in any fighting. It was an honest and rational thought. Aoko despised wasted action, so it was only natural for her to expect the same frugality from her enemies. However, there were those in this world that could not tell right from wrong until it was too late.
先のことは誰にもわからないから。
And no one knows what the future will bring.
その時になって後悔がなければいいけれど。
I only hope when the time comes we won't regret this. With a gloomy sigh, Alice came to her feet.
ちょっと何のために長話したと思ってるのよ。
I'm not done with the lecture yet. You don't think it was entirely for Sizuki's benefit, do you?
一番重要なあんたの意見聞いてないんですけど。
Your opinion matters the most, and we still haven't heard it yet.
あなたがあなたの方針を守るというのならそれでいいわ。
If you must stick to your plan, then that's fine.
私も好きにするだけよ。
I'll stick to mine. Alice glided silently through the door. As the girl in black opened it, she passed, barely lit by the dim corridor. Then, without warning, to the rhythm of her footsteps, a small glass bottle floated into the air and shattered without mercy. How would you destroy a perfectly fine bowl?
あの時こうしておけばよかった。
That's what he should have done earlier. The sharp tone made Soju's face go pale. Alice's voice was so quiet it was hard to tell if she was being serious or mocking him.
私も言い忘れていたけど。
I forgot to mention something. She icily eyed them both She icily eyed them before turning away, and in a voice even colder than the gaze stated,
まだ認めていないから。
I'm still not happy with this arrangement. Her frigid departure seemed to forebode the many difficulties that lay ahead.
たく往生際が悪い。
She is such a sore loser. Uncle leaned back on the sofa while hurling abusive epithets. Her face looked even more irritated than
見
usual.
逃すのとここに住まわせるのは別問題よって。じゃあそれ以外にどんな方法があるってのよ。
She says letting you go and letting you stay are out of the question, but I don't see her coming up with any bright ideas.
譲る気もなさそうだし、この分じゃ実力行使に出るかもね、あの子。
She's as stubborn as a mule. I wouldn't put it past her to resort to violence to get her way. Soju threw a wary glance at Aoko while she grumbled. He wondered what Alice's show of defiance meant, shattering the glass bottle like she did.
宗十郎には記憶をなくしてもらうってことで話はつけたけど、心の底から納得してないってことでしょ。
I thought I could convince her by including the backstop that it could erase your memory, but she's having none of it.
アリスにしちゃ珍しく他人を意識してたけど、やっぱりここに住まわせるとなると難しいみたい。
It is rare that Alice is even cognizant of other people, but maybe having you live here was a step too far for
寝てる
her.
分には良かったけど、起きてるあんたを見たらこう、えも言わぬ刺激心を刺激されたとかさ。
She was fine while he was sleeping, but once she saw you awake, it must have roused her sadistic side.
気を
Alice's
つけてね、
sadist noted.
宗十郎。
Watch your back, Sojiro.
あの子、あんたを殺しに来るかもしれないから。
She might just come to finish you off. If anything, Aoko's warning was an indication that persuading Alice might have hit a dead end.
なんか
She seems so
状
nonchalant
況
about it
はあ
with
の
that
夜
expression
からあ
now.
まり変わってないようだね、青崎。
Somehow, it doesn't seem like the situation has changed much from the other night, Aozaki. She shot him an unconcerned look in reply.
そうじゃないぞ。
I mean it, really.
青崎の次はあの子がやる気満々じゃないか。さっきみたいな目にあったら逃げることもできない。
That girl's just itching to finish what you've started. The next time I make eye contact with her, I might not walk away alive.
こういうの生殺しって言うんじゃないか。
This is what people must call a cliffhanger.
そうならないように努力するのね。
I'll try to make sure that doesn't happen.
アリスの理由は遊園地の時ほど切迫したものじゃないから、そのうち諦めてくれるとは思うんだけど。
Besides, Hal isn't as feeling as urgent as I was at the amusement park, so there's always a chance that she'll get over it by herself.
青崎の時とは違うアリスの理由？
You mean, her reason for wanting me dead is different than yours?
ええ。遊園地の時は秘密厳守のためだったけど、それは一応解決してる。あんたが底抜けに律儀なやつだってのは、アリスだってもう分かってるし。
Yeah, the time at the amusement park was because of a strict adherence to the secrecy law, but we solved it for now. Even Alice understands how creepily earnest you are.
なんで、秘密厳守云々であそこまで反対する理由はないの。あの子は単にね、ここに住んでほしくないだけなのよ。それだけで、アリスはあんたを殺したがってる。
So she should have no reason left to her but confidentiality. At this point, she probably just doesn't want you to live here, hence her desire to murder you. She said it so matter-of-factly, her eyes cold and serious. Soju had hoped for a trace of deceit or exaggeration, but alas.
確かにあの子はそんな素振りだったけど。
I did get that impression from her.
変だね。それならもっと他の手段を取ればいいのに。
But it's strange, if that's how she really feels, then surely we can find another solution. Perhaps feeling guilty about putting Alice out, Soju looked uncharacteristically unconcerned. Aoko immediately knew that what his words really meant.
例えば、記憶を消す魔術が見つかるまで、さっきの小瓶の中に閉じ込めておくとか？
You mean like keeping it locked up inside a tiny glass bowl until you find magecraft needed to erase your memory? The apathy in her voice until now was gone. Soju answered with a simple nod. In truth, it was undoubtedly the easiest solution for all parties concerned. However,
宗十郎、私、約束は破らないの。覚えておいて。
Sojiro, I don't break promises, remember that. She hated taking the easy way out, and had quite furious to clear in the soft words. As for that fury was directed, Chojo was actually aware. The pain in his chest made him regret making her say those words.
すまない。考えが足りなかった。
I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. His sudden apology caused a sullen expression to return. How could not appreciated how angry How could not appreciated how angry she was, alone the reason for it. To her, this apology had come out of nowhere.
あんたって、ほんとわかんないわね。なんでそこで謝るのよ。
I don't get you at all sometimes. What are you apologizing for this time? She stared at Sojiro, unblinking.
あれそうだな。自分でもよくわからない。多分、そういう気分になったからだろう。
I'm not sure myself. I guess I just felt like I should. Even in saying he was not sure, Soju had answered honestly. Oko was at a loss for words.
ただ、青崎の言いたいことは分かった。
But I get what you're trying to say,
約
Aozaki.
束を守るっていうことは、結果じゃなく、家庭を守るってことなんだな。
Keeping a promise is more about the process than the outcome. He shot her a brazenly old smile. His smiling face, filled with blissful ignorance, almost made her smile back instinctively.
当たり前じゃない。オチだけ合ってればいいなんて恥ずかしくてできないでしょ。
Now you get it. If life is only a means to an end, I couldn't live it myself. Oko attempted to cover her embarrassment with a quick retort. Though unintentional, having her true feelings exposed like that made Oko a little uncomfortable. Did I say Alice the first time? Oh. Finding offense in something was a second nature to Oko. Being made feeling uncomfortable was not. But far from being unhappy at the remark, she turned away from its speaker. To disguise her perceived shame, Oko started up the conversation again.
あなたを見逃すって言うなら、気持ちの問題じゃなくて、ちゃんと状況もそうなるようにするのは当たり前なの。
If I say I'll let you go, you can be sure I'm going to do just that, regardless of how I
宗十
feel.
郎をここに住まわせることが、あの約束を守ることになるんなら、厄介なアリスだって言い伏せるわよ。
And if letting you live is living here, And if letting you live here is what it takes to keep my promise, I can take it, even if that means Alice and I butt heads.
脅かすだけならまだしも、ずっと瓶付けなんてさせられるわけないでしょ。
Even if they're just idle threats, there's no way we'll let her bully you up forever.
そっか。青崎があの子を説得しない素振りなのは、もうできるだけの説得をした後だからなのか。
Thanks. Now I guess why I've given up trying to persuade her. She won't be persuaded anymore.
それで彼女とは冷戦中なんだ。
Oh, so that's why they call it a Cold War.
別にあんたのためじゃないわ。私は私のために約束を守ってるだけだし。
It's not as if I'm doing this for you, I'm just keeping my promise.
お察しの通り、私のやるべきことはもう終わってるし、あとはそっちが努力する番だから勝手にすれば。
It's like you said, I've done my part. Now it's your turn, Sojiro. The ball's in your court. Huh? He replied, tilting his hat.
あのね、いい？同居案を何とか認めさせることができるのは私だけだから、2日間ぶっ通しでアリスを言い伏せもした。けどそれ以上は無理。
Alright, listen up. I spent 2 entire days arguing and trying to convince Alice into agreeing this cohabitation ID because, hello, I was the only one capable of doing it, but I've hit a dead end.
私、ここから先はノータッチだから。
From now on, I'm taking a hands-off approach.
しばらくはアリスから守ってあげるけど、その間にあの子にあんたを認めさせることはあんたにしかできないんだからね、宗十郎。
I'll protect you from Alice for the time being, but in the meantime, you're the only one who can convince her to accept you, Sojiro. Operation Convince Alice has begun.
なんと
What? Sojiro had not expected that at all. Alice Goenji, the girl in black who kept everyone at arm's length. If Aoko was a modern-day mage in hiding, then Alice was a bona fide witch from the Middle Ages.
青崎、君自分がどれだけ難しいことを言ってるか分かってるか？
Awazaki, you understand how difficult that will be, right?
そうね。私もこの件に関してだけは同情するわ。
Of course I do, and now you know how I feel. Aoko stood up from the sofa. This was the end of the discussion, at least for now.
私たちがどんな人間かはおおよそ分かったでしょ。
So now you have an idea of what kind of people we are.
魔術に関してはこれ以上立ち入らない方があんたのためだから、説明はここまでね。
The less involved you are in magecraft, the better, so I'll spare you any of further lectures.
で、肝心の今後の方針だけど、3ヶ月間ここで暮らす。
The long and short of it is, you'll be living here for 3
当
months.
初の目標というより最初の試練は、なんとかアリスに同居人として認めてもらうこと。
Your first objective, or first trial if you like it, is so someone get Alice to accept you as your roommate.
試練って言った。今そういう類のことを言った。
A trial? You just call it a trial.
ごまかしてもいいことないでしょ、この手のことは。
Sugarcoating it won't do you any favors.
うまくいかなきゃ粉々なわけだし。
After all, blow it and you're a dead man, remember? With a cold-blooded remark, Aoko started walking towards the door.
あ、そうそう。
Oh, and one more thing.
宗十郎の部屋だけど、3階に用意しといたから。2階のホールの裏側に階段があるから使って。ここは寮ってわけでもないし、時間は自由に使いなさい。
About your room, it's up on the third floor. There's a set of stairs on the far side of the second floor hall, so use those. Also, this is not a dorm, so you're free to spend your time however you want.
ただし、西館にだけは入らないようにね。東館は私が借りてるから比較的安全だけど、それでも歩き回らない方が無難だわ。
But whatever you do, do not go into the west wing. I went to east wing, so it should be relatively safe in comparison. But still, it's generally safer to not wander around.
基本安全なのはあんたの部屋とここだけよ。
In other words, the safest places for you are the room and the drawing room.
中の説明ってまさかそれだけ？
Wait, is it really all you're going to tell me about the mansion?
青崎はいろいろおかしい。魔術なんかよりもっと大事な説明があると思う。
Ozaki, that's messed up. That seems way more important to explain than magecraft. He desperately called out to her as he began to leave the drawing room. Oh, I couldn't help but pity Sojo. What is this face, Jad? What is this?
せめてほら、案内とか。
Can't you at least show me around?
面倒なんでパス。おのぼりさんを案内するなんて2回もやれば十分よ。
Sorry, but I'll have to pass. Showing a country bumpkin the lay of the land twice is plenty enough for me.
起きたばっかりだし、とりあえず今日は部屋で休んだら。朝になったら学校まで案内してあげるから。
Plus, you just woke up. Why not take it easy in your room for the rest of the night? I'll show you how to get to the school in the morning.
もっとも
Smart.
私もそう暇じゃなし。そばに
I
つ
mean,
い
this
て
is
あげ
also
ら
a
れる
good
の
phase, don't
も
get me wrong.
期末試験が終わるまでってことで。
This is a very good expression. And it's not like I'm made of free time. My obligation to put up with you ends as soon as the final exams are over.
1週間以内にアリスと仲良くなるなり、弱みを握るなりしないと。まあ
Excuse me.
あれよね。
If you don't find some way to make nice with Alice, or find some way to blackmail her within a week, well, you know what that means. With barely a wave of goodbye, the student council tyrant walked out. Blackmail her, hmm? He unconsciously clenched the hand he had raised. Left all alone, he was at a complete loss. And as if to encourage him. Bub. Chirp chirp. With the sound of a lightly fluttering wings, a blue robin appeared out of nowhere. The tiny chubby bird innocently looked Sojo up and down. The blue robin, a bird said to bring happiness according to folklore, flapped his little wings as if to cheer him on. You could have at least told him where the toilet is, yeah, and the bathroom. Hell, even the kitchen should be fine, right? Then with the flutter, it mostly flicked off the lights. Communication official knows no can do. Leaving Sojo alone in the drawing room, Olga turned to her bedroom. She closed the door to her room, and as soon as she sat on the bed, she was overcome by an unexpected wave of exhaustion. Sojo had no way of knowing, but she had been preparing for war. In the event that Alice impulsively pulled out a ploy, Olga had to be ready to react in an instant. She sighed heavily, but not from the fatigue she felt at fighting with Alice.
ちょっと突っぱねすぎたか。
Was it hard on him? She fronted a dejected frown. What weighed on Olga's mind was not Alice.
でも甘くするのはあいつのためにならないし。
I mean, going easy on him wouldn't do any favors either.
基本おとなしくしてもらった方がいいわけだし。
The best thing he can do for himself is to lay low. It would be trouble if he wandered around like he owned the place after all. The safest thing for him would be if he holed up in his own room, to scatter out of his wits to leave.
ま、青崎は味方だなんて勘違いされても困るしね。
God, I hope he doesn't think I'm his ally or
アリ
something.
ス同様、人でなし扱いされた方が楽だわ。
Alice is the lucky one. I'd kill to have him treat me as a stranger. She nodded to herself, agreeing with her take on the situation. For the most part, it was a sound plan. If there was a problem, it would be this.
すまない青崎、一つ聞きたいことがあるんだが。
Sorry, Ozaki, I've just one quick question. Not 10 minutes had passed since leaving him in the drawing room. For Soju to shirk off what she had said and visit the room so fast, it was like he had no sense of danger at all.
実は外に出たいんだ。
I need to go outside. Of course he would also leave the house. I'll collect energy for a sarcastic Bob.
洋館の中は歩き回らないし、用を済ませたらきちんと戻ってくる。ただ、門限とかあったら聞いておこうと思って。
I won't wander around the mansion, I'll come back right when I'm finished. I just figured I should check if there was a curfew or anything.
でも、アルバイトには行くのよね。
Work, is it? How did you know? Soju exclaimed in surprise. When it was Oko who decided to display a shock at him.
まあいいわ。
It's fine, you can
基
go.
本、午後10時まで。その時間には必ず屋敷にいること。その後は夜勤に出かけるなり、庭でバーベキューするなり、何でも好きにしていい。
You should make sure you're back on the estate by 10 every night. As long as you keep to the curfew, you can go back to work. You can go work your after-school job. Have a barbecue in a garden. Do whatever you want. I don't care.
それと、玄関に鍵はかかってないから。
The front door's never locked anyway.
気のせいじゃなければだけど。
I get the impression that you're,
青崎、すごく怒ってないか？
angry with me.
あんた相手に気を使った自分に
I'll
呆れ
tip
果
you
て
off
て
the
るだけ
face.
よ。
I'm angry, alright. Not just with you, I'm angry at myself for caring what happens to you.
外に出るのはいいけど、その前にこの錠剤飲んで。
And before you go out, take this pill. Soju took the purple pill from her outstretched hands and Doobie spit it in his mouth. Purple pills? Oh no. He told himself that it must have been some kind of medicine.
それじゃあ行ってくる。いろいろありがとう、青崎。
Alright, I'm off then. Thanks for everything,
あっ
Ozaki.
そ。今度は窓から出ていかないでよね。
Oh, and don't leave through the window this time, okay? Soju laughed himself all the way to the foyer, unsure what exactly he had found funny. Oko watched him go, both indifferently and amazed all at once.
予定が半日早まっただけか。
Well, that happened about half a day earlier than planned.
あの薬を飲ませるの明日の朝にしてあげようと思ったの。
He was supposed to take his first pill tomorrow morning. What are those pills? Suspicious drugs. She huffed, ruffling her hair in expiration and returned to her room. Discerning whether Miss Soju would take was a waste of brain matter. In all likeliness, he was more concerned about missing two days of work than his own well-being after being bedridden for 2 days. With today's work behind him, Soju returned to the mansion.
よし、どこを探しても2階のホールから上がれる階段はここだけだ。
This must be it. It's only the only set of stairs leading up from the second floor hall. It was just before midnight. This was the scene that awaited him beyond the rickety staircase. 10, she said. Midnight. Oh boy. Not much surprised Sojo, or rather being surprised had become normal to him. This scene, however, was enough to leave him speechless. The room allotted to Sojo, no matter how he looked at it, no matter how he went through his mind, was without a shadow of a doubt fanatic. The cold one of that. This treatment stirred a tinge of anxiety in him. Just as he was about to flop on the taut sheets of his bed, wondering if he could make his work despite a share of other problems. He noticed an awkward courtesy, so meager as to be useless.
寒かったら重ねて使うこと。これはサービスとする。
Something to use if you get caught, consider it a gift. The message in the memo pointed at the meticulous personality of the offer. The bed had been perfectly prepared. Carefully setting aside the blanket that had been painstakingly placed on the edge of the bed for him in case he needed it, he looked up at the sky. Is that an open window or is that a closed window? Okay, it's a skylight, okay. Though faint, the stars twinkled throughout the skylight. For a modern boy, that meager light was more than enough for him. The stark contrast with the drawing room had caught him off guard, but now that he had collected himself, it was not so bad. This room fits his personality. Even if he was still not used to the building, he felt more at ease here than he did in the building in the city. Perhaps because it was built on a hill surrounded by woods. The atmosphere here was a little closer to the mountains where he used to live.
でも家の中に霧が出るのはどうなんだろう。
No. Oh, is it normal for there to be fog inside the house? He crooked his neck, pondering over the spectacle he had witnessed. On the way to his room, Sojo had encountered what looked like fog in the foyer on the second floor. I don't think that's supposed to be normal. The misty fog drifted into a portion of the corridor, reminding him of a swarm of mosquitoes. As he stared at it, he swore he could make out the strange landscape as he moved closer to get a better look. Again, out of nowhere, inside of the mansion, a little blue bird darted purposely in front of him.
鳥
But the bird caught his attention, stopping him in his tracks. When he looked to check the fog again, the strange scene had disappeared.
この家隙間でもあるのかな。明日青崎に聞いてみるか。
This house must have a draft. I'll ask Alazaki about it tomorrow. He muttered to himself as he sat on the bed. Meager as it was, the starlight peeping through the skylight calmed him.
これなら
Yeah, this'll work. Exhaling slowly, he lay down. For the time being, he had the essentials he needed to live, and his bed was many times softer than it appeared. Thinking his worries seemed smaller than they were, he quickly drifted off to sleep. That was the story from when he opened his eyes, from when he fell asleep. Just like that, the short night following the long night was over. For one thing was true. Sojo was an optimist to a fault, but it wasn't at the end of the world. It wasn't the end of the world, rather. Now let us rewind 5 hours prior to this glutton for punishment going to bed. Uh-oh. It was 7 o'clock in the evening, just after the unproductive discussion between the two maids and the boy had ended. Leaving her roommate and the intruder in the drawing room, the girl walked alone to the foyer. Through the foyer. From there she headed to the west wing. These were all gorgeous personal chambers in which even her roommate Aoko Kawasaki seldom dared to step foot. The foyer was illuminated only by pale moonlight. Hard footsteps echoed through the dreary moonlit lobby. In such mansions in Japan, there was no custom for removing shoes at the door. Hence, Alice crossed the foyer in her boots. She only removed them when she was relaxed in the bathroom. Suddenly, she remembered something from her childhood. She used to enjoy the feeling of the cold hardwood floor on her bare feet, and she would walk around the foyer on particularly sunny days. After her father affectionately scolded her for it, she never did it again.
そうだったわね。青子は結局守らなかった。
And I don't know why I bothered. Aoko never does. She let out a quiet sigh. Alice's new roommate, who she took on after coming to Japan, would not comply with her instructions.
落ち着かないものはしょうがない。
Old habits die hard, Aoko would say, changing into her slippers. Aoko might have found it naturally to do so, given that she lived in a typical Japanese house throughout middle school, but every time Alice heard her flip-flopping through the foyer, she wanted to cancel the cohabitation. By now, Alice was not particularly bothered by it anymore. Human adaptability was remarkable at times, and gracious at others. The emotional attachments of the past had proved far too brittle under the weight of reality. A little blue bird was perched on the banister. Its tiny chirping made Alice stop and look its way.
今夜は放っておくわ。今は青子の問題よ。
Leave him be for tonight. Right now he's Aoko's problem. The lack of feeling in her voice made the bird tilt its head as it sang. Tweet, tweet, tweet. It trilled as though questioning its master's uncharacteristic leniency.
約束は約束よ。今夜ぐらいは多めに見ないと。
A promise is a promise. I can at least tolerate him for tonight.
青子と彼はそれだけの活躍をしたのだし。
Aoko and the boy did go to such lengths after all. She said to the bird, her voice betraying her discontent. If you win, I'll let you go. She would keep that promise in spite of the unquenchable desire to fight that burned in her chest.
でもその後の処遇は別の話。
But I didn't make any guarantees after that.
条件付きのゲームに勝ったぐらいでいつまでも得意げでいられるのは心外だわ。
She scraped a win even with a handicap in her little game, but I won't let her strut around childishly rubbing it in my face forever. Perhaps it was perfectionism born of fastidiousness, but despite the prim demeanor, Alice Kyoji was a sole loser. It didn't matter whose magecraft was superior, losing the game had proven hard to move on from. The little bird fluttered its wings in agreement. Drinking in Alice's contempt, it was itching to dive on the invader. It looked like a soldier saluting a superior officer as it preened itself. Good friend. The blue bird turned its face to its master. Tweet, 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 tweet. Its light-hearted tweeting seemed to display a desire to deal with surgery first thing in the morning.
そうね。理由さえできたのなら瓶なり本なりに入ってもらいましょう。
Indeed, if it gives us a reason, let us put him in a bottle, or perhaps a book. Accept her words like any bite. Yes, the bird knows. On the face of it, it had the chilling kind that one might come to expect from a witch's lips, but then again so tame to remind you of a certain robin's flapping.
しばらくの話よ。けどそれも一時だけ。私の我慢も長くは続かないし。
It's only a matter of time, and there's not very much of that. My patience has its limits.
だいたい青子も人にかまけていられる立場じゃないわ。5日もすれば思い知るでしょう。そうすれば。
Aoko is in no position to dote on others in the first place. I'll give her 5 days and then... When the time came, expelling him would be simple. Alice was well aware of her roommate was a pragmatist with no vision. The situation she created wouldn't allow her to wait around. She could only afford to protect the boy for 3 or 4 days at most. Beyond that, Alice and Sizuki would crack and say something like, "You take care of this, Alice."
それまで待つか。あるいは私の我慢が効かなくなるか。
Will I wait until then, or will I lose my patience
ど
first?
ちらにしても結果は変わらないわ。
Whichever comes first, the end result will be the same. Alice Gorge would suffer no more irritations. And protecting a witness, let alone allowing them to live in her mansion, was an indignity. Alice looked up, fascinated by the dense fog that had crawled into the foyer. Above the fireplace was a single mirror. Roughly 2 feet in diameter, it decorated the wall where one might find a painting. Its surface was faintly clouded and vaguely reflected on the foyer's appearance.
スナークをなくした影響でしょうね。
This is what I get for losing the
鏡
slug.
の機能しばらくは制御できないみたい。
I suppose that means the mirror is out of commission for the time being. The little bird joyfully chipped at his master's mumblings. The bird attempted to imply there was no need for her to lift a finger, not if the nuisance would fall into the mirror of its own accord. Or perhaps. Had the little bird not sang, Alice would have come to the same conclusion. For some reason, she recalled an early conversation.
これでも一番無難だと思う。
And by now, still think this is the safest option? In response to her question, the boy inside the bowl shrugged his shoulders and answered. From his perspective, the city and the mansion were no different. It seems that having just moved from the countryside, everything was something he had never seen before.
自慢できることじゃないが、まだ書き物さえ満足にできないし、都会のルールは複雑すぎて、何が正しいのかさえ区別がつかない。
I'm not proud of it, but I still have trouble writing, and the city rules are so complicated that I don't even know right from wrong. More than embarrassment, his voice was full of resentment. He was angry about something, though Alice could not tell what. But
だから、どこにいても危ないことに変わりはないんだ。
that's why no matter where I go, I'm always in
極端
danger.
な話、道を歩くだけでも、人と話すだけでも不安になる。俺は、どこでだろうとうまくやっていける保証はないんだよ。
It may be an exaggeration, but even walking down the street or talking to someone makes me anxious. No matter where I am, there is no guarantee I'll make it out.
けど、ここにはそんな奴に気を使ってくれる人がいる。気遣ってくれる理由は物騒なものっぽいけど、それは本当に贅沢なことだと思うんだ。
But here there's someone that might show concern for a person like me. Sure, my reasoning is a little messed up, but I've never known such luxury. Her eyes welled up ever so slightly. Those soft words were something she could not brush off, because they made sense to her. Given that everything in the city was a danger to him, nothing had changed after coming to the mansion. In reality, he had no reason to fear this place in particular. If anything was different from the outside, it would be that someone here was his ally. With that view, he had been entirely sincere. His explanation hadn't contained any flattery towards Alice Koonji, nor pandering to Aoko Aozaki. Yeah, there's definitely some spelling issues going on today, aren't there? He was simply speaking from the heart. I like it here.
今、鏡に迷い込まれるのは迷惑ね。
Perhaps having vulnerable to a mirror is more trouble than it's worth right now.
鏡の機能は侵入者の探索に専念させたいし、彼が迷い込みそうになったら止めてあげて。
I want to dedicate the mirror's function to search for intruders, so if it looks like he's going to be swallowed up by it, do stop him, will you? The bird shook its feathers at the strange instruction. Alice looked away from the mirror and continued to walk. The bird chirped in
あ
protest.
なたの仕事よ、ロビン。それぐらいの役には立って。
It's your job, Robin. At least get that right, would you? Leaving the bird with a icy retort, she vanished into the west wing. All that remained was the moonlight. And the little blue bird, trembling at the perilous prospect of unprecedented change. Ah, you know what happens when the bird starts vibrating, chat. Are you for real? That's just about 2 hours. I think I'm going to leave it at that in case I get hit by another 3-hour chapter again. Like, if it was just an hour in, then sure, but I'm going to play this safe. I'm just going to play this safe. Because if I get another long chapter, my voice is just going to die at the end of the day. So, I'm just going to leave it at that for today. Like, maybe it feels like I'm cutting it short, but yeah, just going to do that. Hehe. Oh, wait. I didn't press the right button here. Crap. Oh, I did open the menu again. Ah. Return to the title screen. But alright, chat. Thanks for watching. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter chapter for this series on YouTube then. Like by an hour, but yeah. Hope you still had fun.